Hello, Coos County. My name is Jill Rasmussen. I'm the executive director here, and I was the one that wanted to go ahead and hold this event here so that we all have a voice and can express our concerns and hopefully some ideas on how to help with the homeless situation we have in the area. I wanted to remind all of you that our building was built in 1923. We've had some threats for this meeting, so I did want to remind you all that we are a historic building, and if you get out of line, you will be asked to leave. Simple as that. So I will turn it over to Matt now, and enjoy the meeting.
All right, thank you everybody for coming. I really appreciate it. So yes, thank you so much to Jill for letting us have this here at the theater. To try and support them, there are donation jars up front near the concessions. So please feel free to donate to help her with the cost of this. You know, electricity. She has volunteers out there, but there's a lot of costs involved with this. So you guys know this, you're business owners. Okay. So once again, I'm Matt Wilbanks, Coos County Neighborhood Watch. You probably all know me because I'm the face of the whole thing, but I'm one of like 50 people doing stuff in the core group. There's so many more people that deserve credit. Some of those guys are out here doing security for us right now, keeping an eye out. Like Jill said, we've had some threats. So certain people don't like freedom of speech. So they made some threats. And once again, if anyone is to get out of line, you know, hard questions, we expect hard questions. People are angry. We got issues going on here. I don't mind if people are worked up a little bit, but the people that claim to say they're going to try and disrupt the event, we're not going to allow that. Okay? So I'm going to introduce my panel here real quickly. I'm going to step back with this thing. So the way we're going to do this, up front we have a podium, got a microphone for questions later on from the crowd. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to start out with our panel here, and I think I want to run through every panelist and let them have their 5, 6, 7 minutes say. And then we can do questions from the crowd directed at any particular person, directed at me, what have you. So going down the line here, have Tim Stillion, Tom and Gigs. Okay, everybody know Tim? Okay. If you need your car worked on, go to Mr. Tim. Al Pettit, owner of Can-Am dealership, is at Highway 101 Motorsports, okay, and formerly the Harley-Davidson dealership. Okay. Got Toby Damewood. Toby is not a business owner. She is a former addict herself and the mother of a person currently living on the street here in Coos Bay, so I'm especially loving to have her here and hear what she has to say. Heather Burns Capandi, her and her husband are local business and property owners. They own, what's the name of the?
We own Nick's Pro Fitness.
Nick's Pro Fitness, okay. So, thank you. Ginny Jones, I just talked to her yesterday. She caught a lot of flack in the Facebook group, so I apologize to her. She's a counselor, North Bend City Council. I will say, and she'll probably say it again when she's talking, public meetings law are kind of strict with, you know, if they have more than enough people for a quorum for the, I don't think we have any other North Bend counselors here necessarily, but if they were to have a quorum in the building, they're not allowed to discuss or decide anything, okay? She's here to listen and, you know, give a little bit of feedback, but no discussions no decisions will be made, obviously. Beyond her, Tina Amatisto, Tina Amatisto, owner of North Bend Towing and Big A Auto. Okay. And then down on the end is Ray Dwyer. He is the owner of Frontline Defense Security. So obviously, all these people have, you know, varying issues. Some, like Tina, have crime issues. You know, her yard's getting broken into. Ray deals with from the security perspective. That's kind of where I come from. My background's in private security. Did private security for about 14, 15 years. So that's how we look at this. You have some other various business owners here who deal with it on a daily basis, trespasses, stuff like that. We have somebody who deals with it from, hey, I was just involved in drugs. I have a family member who's involved in drugs. So I want to hear from all these people. I didn't really pick who was going to go first. Does anybody want to go first?
Oh, let me get mine out.
You want to get yours out? Okay. All right, real quick. This microphone's a little sensitive, so you kind of got to hold it a little bit further away. And that one is a little less sensitive for anybody that comes down and asks a question. So.
Hello, thanks for coming. My name's Jenny Jones, and I currently sit on the North Bend City Council, so I'm part of the team that's been working on the ordinance. I'm also a member of the Coos County Neighborhood Watch Facebook page. And we, as a council, we committed to keep reviewing our ordinance, especially according to the staff recommendations and observations, as well as what we got from the public. So I'm here essentially for that. When I hear a new idea, I'm going to write it down in my little public notebook. If I'm not going to write down any names, unless somebody says, I want to own that idea, write my name down, and then I will write it down. But I have to say that I don't make any decisions. The team makes the choices. I don't speak for the council. I don't speak for the city. However, I was on the team that did these decisions, so I'm happy to hear questions about them and want to hear from you. Sorry, I'm a little nervous. Yeah, I noticed a few things on our Facebook page that I think are some misunderstandings about the limitations that we have to work with. And so I'm happy to go over those, and I'm also, it's your choice if you want to hear that or if you just want this to be really listening. So, thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. We're going to have Al go next.
Thanks, Pat. We could spend a lot of time talking about incidences and things that have happened. I've been here 17 years now, and I've seen this situation become progressively worse over the last 5 or 6 years. And it's just not a Coos Bay problem. It's just not an Oregon problem. This is a national problem, and it's only going to get worse. Statista last year reported that Oregon was the 4th worst in the nation, with about 44 people per 10,000 that were homeless. It is ironic but incredibly telling that the worst homeless problem in this country is the District of Columbia, and a whopping 66 per 10,000 people homeless. I think that tells you how much interest our government has in addressing or even solving this problem, which is zero. Number one, I think it's probably a leadership problem. Number two, I think it's a crisis management experience issue. Whatever the reasons, I think we can expect it to get worse. I think the only resolve is whether or not we want to play in the homeless game, and to what extent, how much obligation we feel we have to harbor these people. From my observation on 2nd Street, which before the can recycling business opened up in North Bend, I was a thoroughfare with the back alley there. I think the homeless falls into 2 camps. Number one, those people that are mentally ill. It's our government's greatest failure that those people are on the street, and they're literally dying on the street. I have a picture of a gentleman that I took sleeping on the sidewalk across the street from my business, which I do quite often, take pictures of the homeless in my area in case I have problems further down the road. So happens this gentleman was sleeping across the street. Bay ambulance showed up an hour and a half later and hauled him off because he was dead. These people are literally dying on our sidewalks, and our government is okay with that. We've legalized drugs, which exacerbated the problem, and these people fall into 2 camps. Those who are mentally ill. It is recommended that every state have 40 psychiatric beds per 100,000 people. Oregon has 16. So it's not a priority, and these people are literally dying on the streets. The other camp are those people who are dealing drugs, and I've seen people that are absolutely out of their minds. They've fried their brains irreparably with meth or crack. I've been sucker punched in my store. I've had my store tagged. We've had thefts. We've had attempted thefts. We've had crackheads come in the front door with weapons under their coats. And a couple years ago, large young gentleman came in, threatened my employees, and just simply came out and said, I need money for crack. I wasn't there at the time, but he was arrested 2 weeks later brandishing a knife at customers down at Coos Toyota. It's only a matter of time before a citizen or one of these homeless people gets seriously injured or worse. Because the situation is getting worse. The drugs on the street, the fentanyl is getting worse, and it's going to create a collision course for some serious problems. So the question we have to ask ourselves is, how much do we want to play? I will tell you that Carson City, Nevada does not have a homeless problem. They put them on a bus and they ship out of town and they threaten them with arrest if they come back. We're not creating the problem. It's not our problem. So the only question is, how much do we feel obligated to deal with this? We can decide to have a street that's free of homeless, but it takes tough calls, it takes hard decisions. We're not going to fix the problem here. These people are going to go somewhere else and live on the street in the same manner that they are here. They're just going to go to a different location. So the only question is, how much of a situation do we want to create here? Because while I know a lot of people who live here have turned a blind eye and no longer see the problem, I see it every day when I go to work. I see the people sleeping on the underneath the canopies here in front of the Egyptian Theater in the wintertime. I see them sleeping in front of Ford in the summer. They're sleeping under my canopy at all times. So the only question is this the environment we want to live in? Is this a community one we want to have or not? Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't mean to steal it from you, Toby. I just want to say real quickly, I'm in complete agreement with Al. For the record, I've never met Al before today. I messaged him, I don't know, a week or two ago, asking if he wanted to be on the panel. Never met him before. I remember him from when he used to do the Harley events at the casino when I was working security there, okay? So people have tried to blast our group. You know, there's a lot that goes on Facebook. People run their mouths. There's a lot of venting that goes on. We kind of let that happen in the group because I know there's a lot of frustration in the community. It's not all exactly how we all feel. I feel like Al does. Like, I feel for these people. It is a mental health issue. Our government, the people we pay to do this job, has failed us. And that's where the pressure, that's where we're using our group to create that pressure. So I'm going to pass it on to Toby.
Hi, my name is Toby, and I am a former addict. Actually, once an addict, always an addict, and I've been clean and sober since 1999. I am also a care provider, caregiver, and I have worked with ALS, Parkinson's, mental health, drug addiction, and various other disabilities. So I know a little bit about caring for people who have behavioral issues. My son, I'm unsure of when he started doing drugs, but at 16, he overdosed and was life-flighted to Portland, and he survived. His grandfather, myself, and his aunt were up talking to counselors, and because he was over 15 years old, he could make the decision of whether he wanted to seek treatment or not. I had no control. My son decided not to. So my son is still actively using. He has been captured on Neighborhood Watch, doing all kinds of weird things, getting ready to shoot drugs, living on the streets. My brother started doing drugs in high school, and he is now a drug-induced schizophrenic, on top of being bipolar. He quit doing drugs many, many years ago, but something happened and he went back and he just continued to use. He sees things, he hears things, and he goes and does crimes. And when the police show up, he tells them, I am seeing things. And instead of somebody being there that can help him, they take him to jail. That is doing a great disservice to anybody that has a drug addiction or has mental health issues. We need a program in place to help them.
if they are arrested, we need something to get them into a behavioral unit, a mental health unit, a drug treatment program, so that they have a fighting chance to survive in this world. Measure 110, the decriminalization of drugs, has done a great disservice to people like my son, my brother, and this community. In fact, the whole nation is messed up. The homeless population is horrible. We need funding for our police to have some sort of mental health counseling training. We need a counselor to go out with our police officers when they have a mental health call, so that somebody can talk to them and they can get to the right place for the help. We need the resources out there, because these are our family. I grew up here. I am generation after generation here. And I have watched this community, pardon me, turn to shit. And I'm tired of seeing it. I'm tired of seeing the homeless, the tents everywhere. You can't go anywhere without somebody coming up and asking you for money, without seeing somebody holding a sign, "We'll work for food." They don't want to work, they just want a handout. Well, we need to retrain these people by getting them into a behavioral facility, to retrain them on their activities of daily living. The individual things like showering, toileting, cleaning up after themselves, taking care of themselves, and being able to manage themselves. Otherwise, where are we going? Where are our resources going? Where is the medical marijuana and the recreational marijuana going? The taxes that we get. Billions of dollars nationwide, and we have this problem. What are we doing?
I'm gonna let Tim go here just 1 second, Tim. We're going a little fast, so I'm gonna interject a little bit. So, thank you so much, Toby, for being here. Like I said, I've never met her before. She's part of the group. Her son, Nate, of all the people that I've encountered, and I don't like taking photos of these people. I don't like showing them in their worst state, but it doesn't get fixed unless you do. It gets shoved under the rug because nobody's paying attention, okay? Her son gets shoved under the rug, okay? I'm not out there trying to make him look bad. Nate, of all the guys that I've encountered on the street out here, is the one I want to help the most, because I've had multiple interactions with him and he's polite. Like somebody taught him some manners. I don't know if it was Toby or whoever else, but the kid is polite, okay? I feel horrible for him. I've seen him do horrible things. Yes, she said, we've had photos of him prepping drugs, shooting drugs. I've had to chase him off of properties where he was not allowed to be. So of all these, I feel the worst for Toby, and I feel the worst for Nate. So I'm going to pass this on next to Tim from Tommy Gigs.
Yeah, it's kind of scary being up here, actually. In 6th grade, I passed out when the teacher told me I had to read something out of a book. Never made me do it again. He learned the lesson real quick, but that was the consequences. But I don't know, it gets to a point where you just can't stand by idly and say nothing. It gets really old, as you can hear from all the testimony, that we're fed up with this stuff, and there's got to be some relief, because people are getting very angry, and when that happens, people tend to resort to things that you don't want to talk about or ever do. But a lot of these people give you no choice. They really, we feel cornered as a community. I do. I've lived here my whole life. I was born here, raised here, taught to have respect for people and property. This kind of stuff was, yeah, you had the supposed pothead here and there, but those people, it was so minimal, but now it's everywhere. And I just find it disgusting that a lot of people that have maybe the power and the ability in office to start doing something about this stuff, instead of turning a blind eye or saying they can't do this or do that. I just think that's a bunch of bull. We're paying these people good money. We hand tie our police force. They say there's nothing they can do. I'm witness to that. Just a couple of weeks ago in my own personal business. It's pretty sad when the police tell you that. So what are we paying them for if they're not able to do anything? Are they going to write a parking ticket? That's about it. These people are not accountable. They have nothing to lose. And some people really need mental health. Other people could go to work, but they choose not to because they're on the public dole system. Anything that's free, they're going to keep doing it. They don't have to work for it. What incentive do they have to better themselves? Nothing. They just want to keep sucking and being a parasite off the public system. And it's sad to see. I've had work my whole life. Nobody's given me anything, but yet my taxes keep going up to pay for all this stuff. I don't see any positive results. I see it getting worse, as he said and she said. It's not getting better. So what's the solution here? I don't know exactly, but I think people need to start being held accountable, especially the enablers. I won't mention names, but they know who they are. I believe in helping people. I'm a God-believing Christian. But when people have certain things that they're doing that are not right and they're destroying other people's property, threatening other people, their lives, their livelihood, there needs to be some accountability and consequences for those actions. I don't see any of that. And it really bothers me because I wasn't raised that way. You can't just do what you want and you get a little slap on the hand and no, you don't do that and you just keep doing it. There's no price to pay. And I have a heart for people. I want everybody to be healed and be better and be a contributing part of this community. But a lot of these people aren't even from around here. Obviously, they're bussed in. Why? Why are they coming here? What's the attraction to Coos Bay? I don't see a lot of this stuff down south, in a lot of those cities. I don't see all these camps going on. Why is it here? And it's really prevalent in Empire. I mean, that's where we have our business. And I'll be honest, if I was a newcomer to this city and I was going to open a business, I sure in the heck wouldn't do it out there. And I probably wouldn't do it in this city. I think it's a real detriment. And I can't believe people are building new buildings around here because, you know, what are they going to do when they have a bunch of homeless people down there with their tarps that they've been given for free and their food for free? They got phones fancier than I can afford. Who's paying for all this stuff? Taxpayers. Yeah, and the children. It's sad. It's so unreal. It's not fair to those. Those kids never have a chance in life. And that's really tough, man, because I was fortunate to have the same mom and dad my whole life. I was very blessed. And I was taught respect and honor. And that makes a big difference. And these people, sadly, they need God, yes. But unless they're willing to accept it, they got to suffer with the consequences. They made a choice to be a drug addict. Sadly, they can get help if they want it, but they have to want it. You can't make them do it. And if we can't make them do it, we have to find them a place where they can go and do their stuff without harming other people. People need to be held accountable. And if we don't do that, nothing's going to change. It's going to stay the same, and it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. Like he's saying, people are dying on our streets. That is pathetic. I can't even work outside our shop now. We've had so much vandalism, the filth and the garbage and the needles and all the stuff breaking our windows cost us thousands of dollars. People wonder, well, how come you charge so much money? Well, because insurance goes up. All these things start happening, and we just can't absorb it anymore. I'm not a millionaire. I don't have big bucks. I'm just foolish enough to be in business for myself, trying to make a living. But it's constantly, it's like one step forward and 3 steps back every time we turn around. And I just feel that's the way with our community. And I'm tired of it. I love Coos Bay. But I'll be honest, if I had the ability to move, I'd probably move because I just can't stand what's going on. And it's not right, and we shouldn't have to put up with it. So hopefully we can get something done with our commissioners and people to finally stand up and grow up here, to say the least. There's moral laws that we have to abide by. But God's law is number one. And if we don't start doing what the Bible says we do, we've got real problems. There's answers in that book. And this has been going on for centuries. This isn't something new, but it's came to our doorstep. We've got to deal with it. And if we don't step up and start voting and doing the things we have to do that we can do to make a good change and a positive change and give these people a reason to be alive, not just getting a handout, give them a reason to be alive, give them a purpose. Put them out in the woods, get them cleaning up, slashing trash, get them working. If they want to earn something and you want a phone, then you go earn that. Just quit giving them stuff because they're never going to appreciate it. I'm telling you, I've seen it time and time again. If you don't earn it, they're just going to literally piss it away on your street corner. It's unreal. We just need to do something, and hopefully we can. Appreciate the time. Thanks.
Who wants to be the next victim? Heather, you gonna go next? Okay.
Hi there, I am Heather Capandy. My husband and I, we own a building over at 137 Hall Avenue. That was where we really had our first exposure to the magnitude of the problem in the community. It was a building that we purchased, it was an investment, and while we had this property, we constantly, I'm gonna say multiple times a day, I would go past the property and there would be people that were not allowed to be there, basically using drugs on the front porch. It was particularly because this is a community where there's a lot of rain, as you all know. So whenever there is a building that has a canopy or any kind of rain cover or shelter, that is the place they go. There were multiple times that, you know, I'm also a teacher in this town. I teach school, I'm a third grade teacher. And so, I mean, I love this community. And some of my families knew that was my building, and they would call me at 8 or 9 or 10 o'clock at night and say, I just drove by your building and there's a fire. There's a fire on your front porch, and people are warming their hands around a can that's sitting on the deck of your property, which, as you all know, is kind of scary because I don't want that to burn down. Not only would that affect my livelihood, but it would definitely affect our city as well. It was a constant issue. I ended up getting on the Neighborhood Watch group with Matthew, but I also had to sign up with the police to get them to even agree to look at my building. And despite me calling the police sometimes literally 3 or 4 times a day to have them come and have people trespassed off the property, sometimes the police would come, but honestly, sometimes they couldn't come. There were real crimes going on. They didn't consider that a real crime, that people were just crapping on my porch and that I'm having to clean up fecal matter because these people don't want to go use the bathroom where I use it or anybody else has to use it. So it just was a chronic issue. And over time, I ended up having to hire Ray Dwyer to constantly, I mean, every single day I was like, somebody has to go by. And because, again, as somebody who's trying to do good in our community, I'm a taxpayer. I'm trying to infuse goodness into this community. Then I need to provide a building that's safe. So to put a tenant in that building who, you know, I need to make sure that this is a safe environment for her. I can't leave somebody there knowing that there are people that are lurking and potentially maybe going to cause her or her property harm. Many times I would drive up at the property just to check on it myself, and there would be people urinating right in the parking lot in the middle of the day or at night or whenever, and it just kept going and going and going. I now have a similar problem. I have a building over at 1782 Virginia at this point. My husband and I have Nick's Pro Fitness. We had a business in Colorado for 25 years and we sold it, we moved here. We're trying to get it going. It just finally got renovated and ready to go, and now there's a big giant pile of trash outside because a homeless camp was out there for 3 to 5 days, and after a few days they just kind of strolled off, and now there are, you know, large pieces of metal and toxic things, not to mention needles and all kinds of human remain, you know, like excrement, that now become our problem. And I am paying my taxes. Like, I am trying to help the community. I am trying to bring in positivity and businesses that will be productive here. But when I'm constantly being forced to spend more money on security and, you know, cleaning up trash all the time, I mean, the trash, you know, I love our trash providers, but they don't take it for free. So I have to pay for that. Not only that, but, you know, I have to, again, when I have a fitness place like that and my husband's conducting classes in the evening and when it's getting dark at night, and I personally, who I'm pretty strong, I'm pretty tough, but when I'm looking out in the grass behind the building and I can see people's heads that crouch down and then popping up and then crouching down and popping up, if I'm a woman trying to leave that facility at night, that's unsettling. That doesn't feel good. That doesn't inspire me to go out at nighttime or be in the community. And those are the people that should feel safe doing those things. It shouldn't be that we all are having to hide inside of our houses because it's too scary. I mean, I'll end on this final note. I know a family in this town. It was an elderly couple. They lived here for probably 50 years. They were in their 70s. They actually gave me, as a teacher, a bunch of fabric. She was a seamstress for 30 years and had all this material. Well, you know us teachers, if we know something's for free and it's something we can use in our classroom, by golly, we get over there, we go get it. So I did, went to visit this couple, and I asked them, why are you leaving? This is such a beautiful place. Why would you leave here? They live right next to Mingus Park. That probably will give you an idea where this story is headed. So one night they were at their house and a man from Mingus Park, a homeless man, and I don't even want to say it's homeless, a drug addicted man came over to their house and was pounding on the door trying to break into their home while they were home. They were in the house while this was happening. They called the police. The police came to their house, and because the man said that he lived there, the police said, I'm sorry, we can't help you. He says he lives here. You'll have to take it up with the city. So the police actually left that man there. They left him with these elderly people, even though they were saying, no, he doesn't live here. We don't know him. Take him away. But because in his mental instability, he kept saying, no, I live here. This is my house. They didn't have grounds to make him leave. And so the guy ultimately did break into the house and beat up the old man to the point where he was hospitalized. And the children of this couple said, you can't live there anymore, Mom. We're too scared that you're gonna die there. These people called the police. The police came. And still that man was still allowed to harm that elderly couple. To me, that's a sign of we're eroding at our foundation. So I don't know the solutions either. I've been trying my best to study the communities that don't have this problem, and what are they doing? What are those people doing? There are people that are solving this problem. Yes, it takes a lot of money. Yes, it's going to take some planning. But my gosh, aren't we the best nation? Isn't this something that we take as a priority? I mean, even at my own school, we've had vandalism there where somebody came and broke 12 windows with a rock. Why should the school have to suffer that indignity? There's children there. I mean, I don't know. I guess where I'm at is we can do better. I don't know exactly all the solutions, but I know there are examples that we can find and we can emulate. We just gotta have some cojones and do it.
Like Al said, maybe the example is Carson City. I don't know. There's other cities we can look at. Ready to go, Tina? All right. Sorry, I left you guys for the very end.
That's okay. You can just press this. I can probably do this without mine. It's on now. Hello.
Yep.
Okay, I'm Tina, and I own Big A Auto Works, and we're behind 7-Eleven in Empire, right across the street from Tim's shop. And we have the same problem he has. We had cars getting broken into, stealing things, and I don't know if you've been over that way, but 7-Eleven in our building has a concrete wall that's behind there. They hang out there in the corner. There's a dumpster there, but do you think they put the garbage inside the dumpster? No, they leave it all out for us to pick up. Crap everywhere. They poop along our building. The other day, there was an adult diaper that was right in front of my doorway. It's like, come on, people. I don't know where to go with this. I don't know what to do with it. We're spending so much money trying to keep it safe. We have cameras, they break them. I have to tell customers, don't drop your vehicles there at night anymore because they get broken into, and I'm responsible for their vehicle once they drop that key inside my drop box. Anything happens to their car, I have to fix it. And it's horrible because the cops can't do anything about it. Even if it's on camera, they can't do anything about it. And we're the ones forking out the money because of the homeless in that area. And I don't feel safe going over to my own shop sometimes. Even during the day, I'm afraid to get out of my car because they're all like right in that vicinity. It's just sad to see. And I own another business, North Bend Towing, which I have to store people's cars in my impound yards. And I have 4 impound yards. I've got 1 in Reedsport, 1 in Bandon, and 2 in Coos Bay. One's on Ocean, which is right next to where Matthew stays, Woods Industries. And if he didn't do what they did to their property, my yard would still be getting broken into because it was getting hit every other day. Cutting the fence. The homeless people were back in the woods over there. They would come and go, oh gosh, my motorhome's broke down. Let me go see if I can find a part in there. They'd cut my fence. I'd have to have it fixed. I have a yard in behind, across the street from Samuel's Automotive. I have a bunch of motorhomes in there because we tow abandoned motorhomes for the police department. And we have to pay to get rid of those. I have to pay to get rid of people's motorhomes. And it's very expensive to take them to the dump. Nobody else takes them. So we have to get it inspected for asbestos, so we have to pay for that. If there is asbestos, they have to come and clean it out before I can take it to the dump. I had 3 motorhomes with asbestos in it. Each one of them is $1,900 to get them abated before I can take it to the dump. And when I take it to the dump, it's between $700 to $900 to get rid of the motorhome at the dump. So we're looking at about, could be $3,000 per motorhome to get rid of. The city doesn't pay me for that. But I have to clean up the streets if they leave their crap on the side when they break down. And a lot of them do break down and they can't afford to fix them. So that's the joy of being on the police rotation. You take the good with the bad, but it's getting to be expensive and we can't afford it. I'm not that big of a tow company that can afford it. So they're in that yard and it's free fall for the homeless people. I don't know how many times I have homeless people and they're sleeping in the motorhomes. They're going through my cars every other day. The doors are open, the trunks are open, the hoods are open. They've taken the batteries out of them. They've cut, hey, I need a spark plug cable. They'll come in there and, take them. And they've cut the fence. And every time I fix it, they cut it. I fix it, they cut it. It's very expensive to, there's times where I'm thinking, why am I a business owner here? I don't want to be a business owner anymore because it doesn't seem like we get the help that the homeless people are getting. Like I said, and my brother-in-law's homeless. I don't help him. He asks me for money, I don't give it to him because I know what he's going to do with it. He's going to go buy drugs. And I don't want to enable that. He tells me how he gets his free phone. The government gives them all free phones. I pay for my phone. I pay taxes. I have 4 properties that I own in Coos Bay, North Bend area. I pay my taxes. They get to hang out on the street. They don't have to pay for garbage. They're just out there, and I'm all for helping. I help a lot of people. I donate to a lot of organizations, but nobody's here to help the business people. And when these people get on Facebook and they think we're bullying, they think Matthew's bullying the homeless people out there. No, he's helping our businesses. He's protecting our businesses. One person can't do it all. And I can't afford Ray. You know what I mean? I can't afford to have security.
I put up cameras, they steal them. They break them. You know, it's so frustrating. Like Tim said, I was born and raised here. I moved away. I came back to raise my kids here, and my parents were here for God knows how many years before they passed away. But I don't like it here anymore, honestly. If I could move, I probably would move out of here. It's just, we don't get help from the cities, don't help us, you know, so I'm just tired of it. Something has to change or somebody's gonna get hurt or the wrong person's gonna go to jail. You know what I mean? They don't get to go to jail. If I did something to them, I'm in jail. I hit them, I pushed them or something. And we've caught 2 people in a motorhome that's living in our motorhome in that yard. And the cops can't do anything about it. We stop them, they take off running, they know where they're going, and they're just like, well, we didn't see them in there, so there's nothing we can do to them. And they continue to come in, and they're living in my motorhome. They're living in the motorhome there. So I can't sit there and stay there all night and watch them. You know, I don't want to put somebody in there and then have somebody get hurt and then they sue me, because that's normally what's going to happen. I'm going to get sued. So, and I couldn't afford it. I mean, my insurance will pay for it, obviously, but it isn't right that we have to pay for all of this stuff and they get the handouts. The businesses aren't being helped in that area. That area, I hate to say it, but that Devereaux Center is a big part of the problem. And no, they don't. So if, you know, they're enabling some of it. I think they're the ones that are the biggest problem is, yeah, you hand out, they get free stuff all the time, but a lot of times you see them down the street doing something with that free stuff that they get. And so they can go get drugs. They'll probably they get a new blanket. They're going to go turn around and sell it to somebody for $10 so they can get a dime bag or something. Yeah. You know, they
dumping the water on the ground and then taking the water bottles back.
That's food stamps for you. They can go, they all get food stamps. You know, who else? Who do we have to help us? You know, I was mad when somebody posted up there on his Coos Bay Watch page, and it's like, I tell them, do you guys want to pay for my fence to get fixed every time it gets cut? You know, each hole is $200 a hole sometimes, $300 a hole. I could have put up 5 more fences for fixing that one fence because they keep cutting it. I mean, they tear that thing apart. They take parts that, you know, when we have to dispose the cars, they're taking the good stuff off the car that we would normally get paid for to recoup some of our towing fees because people can't afford to get their car out because they don't have a license, no insurance. That's how we kind of recoup our stuff. But the city's not behind us when we have to clean up the garbage RVs and trailers and boats and stuff like that. They need to step up, and there should be a fund like Washington has. The DMV, some of their DMV fees goes towards that kind of stuff to pay to dispose of those RVs. Oregon needs to do something like that. But it's tiring. It's really tiring to see, you know, it's not fun living here anymore. You know, it's just sad what this town has come to. I came back to raise my kids here because I thought it was a small town that I loved growing up in. We used to leave our doors unlocked. Shoot, nowadays you gotta lock them, you gotta have cameras at your house. You know, you don't feel safe anywhere in the neighborhood, and they've put them down at the North Bend boardwalk now, and it's just like, my parents' bench is down there. I'm afraid to go sit down there now because they're all down there now. So it's like they are here to help the wrong people. And I feel for the homeless, I feel for the ones that are mentally ill. They do need to help them. Somehow we have to get some kind of mental help for some of these people that need it.
We need to open our behavioral
Yes.
instead of mental health hospitals, not close them down.
Exactly. Don't know why they did that.
It's not a pandemic, it's not an epidemic, it's a pandemic
Yeah.
of homelessness, drug addicts, and mental health on the street.
Well, they know they can get it for free. That's why people can't, find people to work. Why would you work when the state is giving you the darn money? Yeah.
It's very hard to get a job if you don't have a home. You can't get
Yeah.
a job without a house.
Yeah. And that, I don't even know what the song talk about, the price of housing that's gone up in this area, and there's no housing for people to go into, but you need 4 jobs to survive. I'm lucky, I'm one of the lucky ones, but I feel bad for my kids. My daughter's 20, and she's probably gonna have to live with me until she's 30 or 40 because you can't move out of here. You cannot get your own place. Back in the day, an apartment was, $300 to $400. You want a furnished one, it was $600. Now, a studio apartment is $900 for a studio. 1 bedroom, $1,200. I see why people are in their cars living right now, or they're on the street, because they can't afford it.
And what's really sad, and I hope people can hear me, is it's starting at a younger age.
Mm-hmm.
So us as parents who want to get our kids in treatment, who are over the age of 15, like I said, have no rights to
Nope.
do that. So here we have children that become addicts, and by the time they don't even have a fighting chance. We've taken that away. The policies and procedures that are in place, they're for the politicians and their pockets. They're not for anybody in our communities.
Yeah, I was shocked when at 14, my kids could make a decision. I wasn't able to even talk to the doctor. My kids had their own choice to do what they wanted to do. What the hell is that? Luckily, I have good kids, but, thank God. But they need help. We have to do something. I don't know. Matthew's doing a wonderful thing that he has going on here. And people need to step up and help him. Help the business owners in that area and protect us. And a lot of people don't understand what's going on there. It's not us trying to bully the homeless people. We're just trying to save our business and not have to spend so much money replacing, people's stuff out of their car. We had a car stolen from our property. It's just ridiculous that it is the way it is now. And the police department, I feel bad for them. They can't do anything either. Yeah. Can't get mad at them. It's got to be above them and stuff, so.
At what point do these people become a danger to themselves or others? Is it when they're walking in the streets and getting traffic, getting ready to be hit? When our law enforcement officers are having to Narcan them to save their lives and using the resources for other things than what they need to do to patrol the streets? When are they a danger? When can we put these people on a 72-hour hold to help them? When can we start as a community here? What do we do?
Well, he posted pictures of a guy going wacko on the Devereaux Center. How is she allowing that to happen?
Those drugs can happen.
Exactly. They're all drugged up over there.
And they may not happen directly on the property.
Yeah.
But they happen at the storage units. They happen behind 7-Eleven. They happen at all the neighboring communities. And then they go, I'm going to go take a shower at the Devereaux Center and hang out all day and get free food.
Yeah, exactly. And dogs being dosed with fentanyl over there.
Yeah.
It's like, what the heck? We survived. We helped a dog get away from a homeless guy that was beating the crap out of that dog, And that dog's in a loving home. I help pay for the shots. I'm paying for him to get fixed. He's the sweetest dog ever. He should not have to be beaten by some homeless person.
The one my son was running around chasing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So he's in a loving home right now. And when I see the homeless people with animals, it just breaks my heart because you're never sure if they're beating the crap out of them or giving them drugs. It's got to stop, and I think a lot of it needs to start with the Devereaux Center. Maybe they need to move it out of the county or somewhere in a big field. Where? Exactly. There you go. So I don't know. I just want my business protected. I'm tired of forking out money to fix my fence. And I can't afford it. I can't afford it anymore, you know. I leave them open. Here you go. Go at it.
Well, I have a question. We closed Shutters Creek.
There's a guy with his arm up, Matthew.
Why did we close Shutters Creek? And is there some way we can get funding to where we can put these people and have people that can counsel them, retrain them, give them the skills so that they can be better members of our community? How can we go about getting the funding to open a facility here to house these people? They're getting free food. The state's going to give us money to give them food and clothing and, possibly maybe electricity. Why not open a facility at Shutters Creek where we can get the help that we need for these people?
Because it's owned by the state, and they won't allow the county to use it, and they're using it as.
Can we hold it? You want to come on and ask a question now? Yeah, come on. We'll go to right here. Yeah, come on up to the front here. There's a microphone. You may have to turn it on. So we're going a little out of order here, but you know what? Hey, it's John Chaplin. I didn't recognize you back there, John. Why aren't you on my panel, John?
Is this on? Okay. So here was some information.
Turn it off.
One moment.
Okay, turn it on.
Is that better?
Maybe it's just me.
Is it on?
Is that better? Okay. So I wasn't sure whether I was going to talk about this tonight or not, but when I came in here, I can see it's appropriate. I spoke to the city council on Tuesday night about something completely unrelated, and got a call yesterday from Joe Benetti, and had a long chat with him, and he told me, and I said, don't make a fool out of me if I go and tell these people this, but the Devereaux Center is moving out of Empire. If it makes a fool out of me, so be it, but I went over it with him, but he wouldn't tell me where it was going. I suspect it's going to, God help, the south end of Coos Bay. The south end of Coos Bay, but Empire, Tina, Tim, you're going to get a reprieve. And it's going to be safe. And he gave me his word, and I told him, don't let me say that if it's not true. And he said it's true, and he told me that the city unofficially agrees that the Empire is not an appropriate place for the Devereaux Center. So they're the hell out of there. I don't know what the timeline is, but he made it sound like it's happening in the near future. But, where are they going to go is the question. They need to go completely away. I don't think the fight is over, but Empire's got some help, so. Well, can you imagine if they move it down by the Coal Bank Slough? What kind of a zombie apocalypse it's going to be over at Fred Meyer now? It's bad enough already. So, that's what I want to tell.
Real quick before I pass it to our final panelist, Ray, I want to kind of talk a little bit about what John was just talking about. Yeah, even though Benetti did not confirm where they're going, and we don't know this with 100% certainty, everyone knows where the Coal Bank Village is, correct? The pallet houses? The pallet houses, south end of town, okay? We're relatively sure the old Chambers Heating Building, Pro Diesel, right next door, it's been purchased by the city. That is where we believe it's going to happen. And there's been some discussion in some other meetings. The major in charge of the Salvation Army mentioned this during that library meeting that John talked at, the city council. He mentioned that they're partnering with Devereaux for, I think they called it a soup kitchen. but we believe that's the location. Now, some positives and negatives here. That's an industrial part of town. Is it a better location than the Devereaux? Yes. Here's my problem though. They're now in bed with the city. They're now in bed with Salvation Army. She's getting more power. Okay? Even with she continues to make mistakes. If you have a kid who can't clean his room, he doesn't get any dessert. They keep giving her the dessert, but she won't clean her room. It's driving me nuts. So I think it, yes, technically is a better location, but
there's tons of houses
yeah,
out there too, that's a community.
exactly.
And those people are gonna be suffering the
Yeah.
same indignities that they are.
Exactly.
It's not.
It is.
That's walking distance.
It's moving it around, you know. Maybe it'll affect a few less actual homes, but I have friends that own businesses 50 feet from there, so it's gonna get even worse for them. So while we're glad it's leaving Empire, we all need to stay on the city and on them for the stuff they're doing wrong. So, all right, I'm gonna pass this on to Ray.
All right, hi everybody. My name is Ray Dwyer. I'm co-owner of Frontline Defense Security Services here in Coos Bay, North Bend area. What we do at Frontline Defense is we have a town patrol that goes around at night and checks on businesses and residences. We also do on-site security. And right up front, I'm going to tell you and tell everyone here on the panel, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you're in a position where you have to pay somebody to watch your stuff.
Well, it's not your fault.
I agree, but in this day and age, our new normal is, you can't even, I'm sorry, I have a hard time not controlling what I have to say here. In this new day and age, the new normal is not what it should be. Property crimes. Property crimes are at an all-time high in our area, and there's no reprieve, okay? Burglary, vandalism, larceny, arson, trespassing. Here just this last week, the Coos County Commissioners and the Coos County Sheriff, in the form of a resolution, they're asking the state legislature to repeal Measure 110 and the provisions of it. Having said that, we don't know what's going to happen, but at least we have some of our local governments that are trying to make that move here. Let's take a look about the last 4 years of our area. What happened in 2019? January 2019, COVID hits, right? That turns around and that just totally devastated our criminal justice system. No accountability, no reprimand for people doing wrong. Property crime started soaring because our law enforcement, their hands were tied. They could not take people to jail. They couldn't cite people. Our justice system, our courts were so backed up and nobody was able to take people to court to adjudicate these things. So now all of a sudden you've got all these people out here committing property crimes, everything of, we're going to steal a little bit of candy from the store all the way up to we're going to burn your house down. And there's no recourse. People are trespassing on other people's properties and there's no recourse. There's no accountability here. All right. Then we turn right around and 2020, Measure 110 comes along. Hey, that's a great idea. Let's decriminalize drugs. Okay, that didn't work either. So now we have all these people that are on drugs that are not having the opportunity to go visit the judge, the opportunity to have somebody actually look at them and say, hey, let's put you behind bars and clean you up for 72 hours, give them a chance to maybe think that this isn't a behavior that we want to do. And I say that because this is a chosen behavior. Our area has so many services available. If you're a drug addict and you want help, Coos Bay, North Bend area, I tell you what, we have so many programs here for drug addicts. I mean, there's help here. There's help with housing. There's help with your children. We have a lot of resources here. What we can't tolerate is we can't tolerate people continuing to commit crimes, people continuing to do drugs. And like I say, it's a choice. It's a choice. If you want drug treatment, guess what? You're on that first path right there. I'm not saying it's going to be easy. But I'm saying it's possible. If you don't want drug treatment, you're going to continue to make those choices every day that's going to make you to be an unproductive member of society. What I'd like to talk about a little bit is the cost that these unproductive members of society, and I'm not saying homeless, because I know a lot of people that are homeless, but they're not a burden on society. They're not the ones that are sleeping on a front porch somewhere and a property owner the next morning has to come out to a pile of feces on their front porch. I'm talking about the people that choose this lifestyle, whether it be through drugs, crime. Those are the ones that we have a problem with. You take people that are committing these property crimes. You know, property owners have to pay for this stuff. Tina, she was just talking about how every time somebody cuts through a hole in her fence, that's $200. A lot of these guys now, what they're doing, instead of sticking a hose down a vehicle fuel can, they'll sit there and drill the bottom of it. They'll sit there and drill the bottom of it and let the gas come out in a can. And God forbid somebody lights a cigarette, right? Hey, it happened. 5 vehicles totaled out in Charleston. Okay, this is the mentality. They don't think, yeah, let's just light a cigarette there while we have gasoline coming down. These property owners are losing. Everyone says, oh, that's okay, they have insurance. We shouldn't have to worry about having to have insurance to cover somebody else damaging our stuff, but unfortunately we do. Ultimately, the property owner has to pay. Right, exactly. So you've got people trespassing on private property. We deal with that a lot with Frontline Defense. Let's say you have a bare lot somewhere out in the woods. Next thing you know, you got somebody camping on there. The property owner is responsible for the cleanup of that property. We've seen thousands and thousands of dollars that property owners have had to pay just to have somebody come and clean up that biohazard, all the needles and things. It's not something that you want to just go back there with the trash can and some gloves. This is something people are taking bulldozers and excavators in and cleaning up because it is so nasty. All right. You got vehicles left in the city. The city, if it's left on a public property, they have tow contracts like Tina was talking about earlier. If it's on your private property, the property owner has to pay that. So when I have a client that has a motorhome that's dropped off at their property, in order for that property owner to have that motorhome towed, that's the $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 that Tina was just talking about. So what do we do at Frontline? We are there to come in, and what we have to do for our clients is we try to make sure these people aren't there. When they do try to set up, they need to go somewhere else. We don't want that person to camp out. And if you're not watching your stuff 24/7, pretty soon somebody will. Somebody will set up camp. We've heard stories of people police officers not being able to remove a person from a property because that person says, hey, I live here. We had a situation down on Broadway Street in North Bend where something very similar had happened, and the property owner had to take those individuals to court to have them removed. Another expense, and then spend thousands of dollars to clean up the property after it was all done. Yes, and the time. Right. So I think honestly, just Ray talking here is the accountability. We need to get back to when people commit these crimes, whether it's I stole a candy bar from the store or I'm trespassing on your property, these people need to be seeing a judge. They need to have recourse for their actions. We have services here. We have services here. If people need to be influenced to utilize those services. And if they don't utilize the services, guess what? They don't get the help. Plain and simple, like have work camps or something like that. You can come and get food, but you're going to help us clean the table afterwards or whatever like that. Teach people some sort of job to go along with that free handout.
So with them being over 18, they are considered an adult and have the right to make their own decision on whether they seek treatment or not. The problem is they don't want to seek treatment. So we as a community need to figure out, one, when are they a danger to themselves or others, and two, when do we get to put them in a controlled environment against their will so that they can better themselves.
So in answer to that, Coos Health and Wellness is doing a good job of coming out. A lot of times when a law enforcement officer has a situation where there's a mental illness involved, Coos Health and Wellness will come out and do an evaluation. Okay. If the person doesn't want help, basically they have to make that determination that that person is unsafe to themselves and unsafe to society. That's basically taking that person's human rights away. And that's very hard to do in the state of Oregon. That's where we have the problem, is that, you know, we don't. You're exactly right. It's exactly right.
But at the same time, they're violating our constitutional rights by doing what they're doing.
Agreed. Agreed.
Right, yes.
So I want to talk a little bit more on what you can do to help yourselves. I hate to cut that off, but a little bit more on what you can do to help yourselves. We invest money in camera systems for our properties. We also invest money in alarm systems. But like Matthew was talking and like Tina was talking, until they actually have the person there. You know, Tina, one of her lots is right there by where Matthew's at. Having that physical presence, and that's one of the things that the Neighborhood Watch is doing so well. All right, is being that awareness and being that physical presence. We as a security company, that's what we do. And yes, it is expensive to have security, and I apologize for that expense, but we are looking at ways to bulk that into like a neighborhood program instead of just like individual businesses having to buy security. Let's say everyone on this block wants to go in together, and what you benefit from hiring private security to help you is you benefit, we actually can act on your behalf. We can, as somebody comes up to your property, we can call law enforcement, we can have them cited for criminal trespass. We can have them removed from your property. And that's something that we can do for the property owner. They don't actually have to be there to do it. So yeah, security is expensive, but we are looking at ways to try to make it more affordable, especially in areas that we're going to be at we've got quite a few properties that we watch right now, right around the Devereaux Center. And I would love to sit there and make that a whole area. But that's something, if anyone has any questions or something, I'm not trying to throw a plug for our business here, but if anyone has any questions, reach out to me, please. Because it's something we want to try to see some sort of control come back on the area. Because these people are going to do these things somewhere. Let's make it not be here. You know, maybe they can go back to the place where they can. Because I know people are coming and going here all the time. I mean, we've had people that they've sent out of town. Guess what? They're back. Why did they come back? Because we have all the handouts for them here. Anyway, thank you for your time. Thanks for everyone coming.
Real quick, I just want to double down on some stuff that Ray was talking about. So he's obviously security. My background's in security. I love his idea of like a whole neighborhood pitching in. You know, you can distribute the cost. That's kind of what we've done with the Neighborhood Watch. You know, that's the free version of it. Everybody looking out for everybody else. You have the expensive version, which is obviously hiring private security, which not everybody can do. But that's a middle ground right there where it's like, oh, we're kind of all subsidizing each other, you know? And a lot of people don't realize this. When we started the Neighborhood Watch, I know what I'm doing with this. You can, in the state of Oregon, in most states, any property owner can designate anyone they want to have authority over that property. Some people have designated me, like Heather. Heather was one of the first ones that came on board and said, hey, yeah, if you see somebody on my property, chase them off. She can designate anyone she wants, from me to security to a cop. It doesn't matter, okay? As long as I have the authority and the cops know I have the authority. So that's an option for you guys out there, okay? So, yeah, go right ahead.
So, because I think that this is a program in both Coos Bay and North Bend, but, so imagine, this is the scenario where I learned this. Imagine somebody's sleeping in the little alcove in the doorway of Ciccarelli's downtown North Bend. And the police patrol, and that's not public property. So without express permission, an opt-in for, what is it called? We call it the North Bend Police Department Property Watch. I think it's Coos Bay Property Watch. If they have a piece of paper that says the police can trespass for them, they can get that person to shuffle on. If they don't, that person can stay until, so for property owners especially, you can do the private security, you can double down with signing that piece of paper for that property watch in the North Bend Coos Bay Police Department.
Doesn't it seem like everybody should have that anyway? You know what I mean? Like, I agree with what you're saying, and you're 100% right, but shouldn't, I mean, it's common sense. Common sense needs to make a comeback. Where?
Yes, I agree. So this is where our nation that predicates or puts individual rights and property rights of private owners above a certain level of government control, however imperfectly executed, but we do say individual rights, property rights of private people. So that's the rub. That's the rub. If the public police department doesn't have express permission from the private property owner, they can't trespass for them. The flip side is, well, maybe I don't want the cops on my property. You know what I mean? That's the rub. So that's why it's not, we automatically get it. Each property owner has a right to decide. And should, right? This is just one of those places where these good things run into this crap.
I guess what I'm trying to say, and you're 100% right, I guess what I'm saying is, I'm a taxpayer, so if somebody is sleeping on my doorstep, of course I want them removed. I mean, do I really have to go to the police? And I mean, I did it, and but I just think, why would I even have to?
Yes.
But yes, did I do it? Yes, I did, and I highly recommend it.
Yes.
So yes, here,
Put together a
Yeah.
form letter and everybody mail it to your individual police department.
so here in America, yes, you have to have permission from the property owner to act on their property. That's just whether it's police or, I mean, the only thing is like a fire department can come onto your property without permission to put out a fire.
But there were people with warrants out for arrest that were standing on my property, and
Right.
the police didn't take them. They had full active warrants out for their arrest right then, and the police were like,
Well, and in that particular time, it was probably around the situation where our law enforcement officers weren't actually allowed to arrest also. Because we went through that situation where, and we're still going through it, where the county sheriff's office, the jail will or will not hold somebody. I just want to say one thing real quick about the Coos Bay and North Bend cities both have the property watch that they will come in. The thing is they don't do it every single night. And that's your benefit for a private security company, is that companies can come check your property as often as you want them to. Now, I'm not saying that the police department isn't going to if they come by, but they are so busy with other things going on that they may see that person sleeping on your doorstep, but they have to go take care of a more violent crime. So that's.
So that's exactly right. You can only go so far as how large your police force is. And so in North Bend, we have, at any given time, we only have 2 people on shift. And in fact, our tax base doesn't actually cover that public safety cost. So that's the rub, right? We have to, as a community, say, do we want more police, and how are we going to pay for it? So that's another hard edge of this problem. Thank you.
Got a question from the crowd, 1 second here. Yeah, so that's really the question here. If you guys, anybody who listens to the scanner all the day, I listen to the radio all the time. The cops are dealing with this nonstop. So the more businesses sign up for these programs, I'm all for it. I told Heather to sign up for it. I told tons of people to sign up for it. But there's only so many cops. What happens if every single business in both towns signs up for it? There's not enough cops to deal with it. So we do have that issue. So I want to go down here to a question. Is that microphone working?
Is it? So I'm a mobile notary in the area, and I go all over the place, and I hear everybody complaining, and I see all of this going on, and I've actually been to the Devereaux Center and tried to work with people to try to help them get their IDs and stuff, and I do see a lot of it. They don't want help. They don't care to get help. and they get a lot of free stuff, and they're welcome. Well, who's supporting the Devereaux Center?
We are.
Exactly. Why are we not supporting our local businesses? Why are we not forming groups as a local business or business owners and putting money into ourselves? Instead of putting money into that fence all the time, over and over, put money into a group and form groups like Matthew has. Make it nonprofit. Get it to where we can, as business owners, check on each other's businesses at night. Start taking it back. Not fighting, not doing something illegal, but start taking it back. Watch out for each other as business owners. Because I'm in that area that they're about to move that Devereaux Center to. I had a rental there. My renter could not walk back and forth to work. Her daughter could not go to work at Abby's Pizza because she was being threatened at night, trying to go home. It doesn't matter where you move it. Moving it's not going to do any good. We've already got pallet homes and campers parking on the side of the road. We need, as business owners, to take it back. We need to form groups of our own and watch out for each other's businesses and have people to help these guys patrol and make donations or something to the groups that are actually doing stuff, instead of making those donations to people that are just giving it away to people that don't appreciate it and don't really need it. They're getting the grants. They're getting the backing from the city. We need to invest in ourselves as businesses and start helping each other and take our town back.
I want to say something real quick here before I think we have another question coming up. But this is a tough subject for me because everyone knows as soon as you involve money in something, it gets complicated, especially between friends, and it just scares the crap out of me. We've discussed the nonprofit thing before. There's a lot of oversight that goes into that, you know, from the IRS down to the state and city level. We had someone else recommend the same thing. We've had people recommend what they call PACs, political action committees, which would let us, you know, advocate for legislation one way or the other. We try not to get into politics in the Facebook group because I don't like what that devolves into in Facebook, but this stuff gets solved politically. So I don't know, that may be something we discuss down the road. It's been discussed a little bit amongst our core group of friends that started the whole thing, so, you know, we'll think about it. Do we have another question down? Oh, Jill?
Is it possible that we can let people start lining up for those that want to talk?
Yeah. Give me 1 second. Go ahead and line up if you have a question. I'm going to read. Can you give me just a minute here? I'm going to read this thing. I got one person I forgot to read. It might take a minute. So I do have someone here who's a business owner and didn't want to read this herself. I understand. I hate talking in public. So this is from the owners of Samuel's Automotive. Try to get through this as quick as I can. As owners of Samuel's Automotive, located at 920 Newmark Avenue, we face many unnecessary challenges on a daily basis due to the overwhelming homeless and vagrant population that inhabit the area. First thing every morning, we check the U-Haul rental trucks and trailers for any people sleeping in them. In addition, we look for used needles left behind in and around the U-Hauls. We take extra time to ensure the trucks and trailers are properly cleaned before renting them to any customer, as we do not know what could have or was done to them while left unattended in the lot across the street from our shop. And for those that don't know, this is right next to Tina's shop, or Tina's yard. The garbage dumpster near our shop bay door is frequently rummaged through overnight. Sometimes trash is left thrown about on the ground. We need to ensure this is all picked up prior to customers arriving with their vehicles for the day. During the rainy weather, we have found people and their belongings underneath the outer stairwell leading to our upstairs office. Due to the proximity to the Devereaux Center, there is constant foot traffic in front of the office, shop, and vehicle repair bay doors. There have been incidents of screaming, verbal expletives, verbal threats, liquids thrown. We have even had to request trespass orders due to excessive and repetitive harassment. On Monday, 8/14, We arrived to work to find a couple engaged in inappropriate sexual activities in their vehicle in front of the shop. We told them to move along, that it was private property. Waited for them to move along, then we could park our truck. Then we could start the normal routine of checking the U-Hauls for sleepers or drug paraphernalia. None of this described above is part of our actual scope of doing business. We are an automotive repair shop and U-Haul truck rental. This is all highly frustrating and something that we didn't have to deal with on a day-to-day basis 5 years ago. Something needs to be done. It is getting worse every day, week, and year that ticks by. That's with kind regards from Alex Samuels and Crystal Larson, the owners of Samuels Automotive. Sorry, I'm really bad at reading things in public. So we'll go down to questions. Diane's up first.
Hi, I'm Diane Rich, and I'm from North Bend. I live near the hospital, nice part of town. I drive a Tahoe. And what they're talking about having the gas can punctured, it's happened to me. $1,500 repair. I get a locking gas cap, they break the gas caps off. Another $1,500 repair, and each time it took 30 days to get the car fixed. I wake up in the middle of the night to look out at the window to see if someone's stealing my gas, because they steal it once a week. Now the reason that we have this problem is, I believe the Devereaux Center inherited a house that's about 2 blocks away from my house that has become a zombie wonderland. I've got tweakers going by, naked, painted tweakers. Never thought I'd have to say that in a sentence, but I had to call the police twice because of this. Now, in my experience, in public programs, whenever you give money, it grows. The more that we put towards the homeless issue, the more of an issue we're going to have. We need to make rules, and we need to follow up on them. And if we have to make a county ordinance that unless you're employed, you can't be in this county unless you have a family resident here, maybe that's an idea as well. But we can't handle it. You know, I own a small business. I can't afford to replace my gas can or my my fuel tank on my truck every time I turn around, or once a week because they need to take my gasoline. And I believe that we really need to look at the root of this problem, which is inadequate housing. We lack affordable housing. And until we look at the reason why we have so many people on the streets, it's not going to get any better. So we've got permitting problems that take us a year to build a home. Why can't we fix that? Really, why can't we figure that out? If we could build a house with a permitting program of 90 days, something might change here. Just an idea.
Stan Avery. You got a question, Stan, or just a comment?
Yeah, so I do have a question for everybody. Is it okay if I take a minute to frame the question? Okay. My wife and I'm Stan Avery. I'm the plumber in Bandon, the plumbing contractor. And I was also elected to the school board there. And I have 28 grandkids, so I have skin in the game. All right, so now my wife and I, before we knew each other, we both lived in many places all over North America, homeless by choice. It was like state-of-the-art poverty, and we lived in derelict houses that we could find. We would only use them with permission. Most of the time, we just camped in the forests. Never had a complaint about it. Our camps were immaculate, but we were radical Christian evangelists. So we were homeless so that we could reach the homeless, and it was pretty effective. And then since we've been here for 30 years, we've completely lost count of how many homeless people we've taken into our home, which doesn't cost anything really. And but we learn from our decade of homelessness how, in a brief interview, to tell why they are homeless. And so the homelessness is not the problem. That's just the observable result of the real problems. And so we can tell pretty quickly. We've taken in almost all the people we've taken in. Most of them are single moms, women with children that, through circumstances not of their own choosing, end up in need, homeless, and actually one of them is here tonight, and fantastic success. I believe lost count of how many we've taken in. But we have learned on the street, from all those years and years, that the reason why people are homeless, which is just the result, it's not the real problem, is it can vary widely. Like those people that are homeless from circumstances foisted upon them, they're so easy to help. Any community can do that. We've done it over and over and over again. It's very satisfying. We have a fantastic record of success. Married some of them off. Anyway, but there are other reasons that result in homelessness, like for example, is insanity. And then there's indolence, which is a fancy word for they don't want to work because our society is structured in a way where they don't have to. And so why should they? We met so many people on the road when we were camping all over North America that they said, yeah, the reason I'm homeless is because I like it. Why shouldn't I? And then, of course, there's the drugs and the alcohol. But we could build homes until the cows come home, until kingdom come, and it wouldn't solve the problems that are resulting from the observable homelessness. Those things have to be observed, and it's going to take a radical change. Because, who was that guy? Reagan? He said, the government is not the solution, it's the problem. And we didn't end up here just from random circumstances. It was strategic blundering by the government to make it so that homelessness was inevitable. And so here's the question: how do we distinguish between people that are homeless from derelict behavior and decisions, and people that are homeless through circumstances being foisted upon them, just things that happen? We need to catch those people. But the others, if we just say, well, these people are homeless, it's like a euphemism. And so the question is, how do we distinguish? That's one two-part question. How do we distinguish between the two to discern that and quit calling people that are choosing homelessness homeless? Because they're choosing that. I know that because I lived with them for a long time. Okay. And then the other thing is, how do we motivate the constabularies and the legislators and our councils, motivate them to give the constabulary the tools to incarcerate and we've all met people on the street that you look at them and they're completely insane. Leaving those people to their own devices is a terrible cruelty. That's not charitable. That's not kind. So how do we distinguish that? And then how do we empower the councils, the constabularies, the legislatures, or motivate them to solve the problems that they have created? That's my question.
Thank you very much for those questions. First of all, one of the things that we see, and Matthew sees it all the time, our security staff at night, you can tell the difference between the people that have chosen that lifestyle, the people that have, and the ones that are homeless. That's why I don't like to call this a homeless issue. I know lots of people that have chosen to be homeless. I had a security officer that worked for me that was homeless and lived in his car. He was still a productive member of society. He just wanted to live in his car. There's nothing wrong with that. What's wrong is the person that's being a zombie walking across the street at Empire in front of the 7-Eleven and then turns around and grabs a rock and throws it through their window. That is the problem. So it's pretty easy if you actually look out on the streets and you're out there. It's very simple to figure out who is actually homeless versus, like you were saying, I don't want to say that victims of either their choices or their circumstances, because a lot of it is self-choice, but there are circumstances too, and we do need those mental facilities for those people. We need to have that accountability. As far as for your second, to motivate the law enforcement, our law enforcement needs to have the ability to make these arrests, to help keep these people accountable for their actions. Otherwise, there's no motivation to change. When I see somebody go to jail, whether it's for overnight or for 15, 20 days, the first thing I do when I see them back out on the street, if I know this person is a drug addict, I look at them and say, man, you look good. Hey, nice to see you. You know, they're people. We talk to these people all night. Hey, nice to see you. You got clean skin? How you feeling? Oh, I feel great. Yeah, man, how's it? You know, I'm a believer in second chances. You know, we got lots of programs out there. We got lots of help for you. 48 hours later, that person's got their head down because now they've used drugs again. They've made that choice to use drugs again. And then they go right back in that spiral. So that's just my take on it, is that, you know, you can see who is actually needing those programs. We have a lot of homeless people that they're productive members of society. That's not our problem. That is not a problem at all in our area. Those are not the people that are going to throw rocks through a window. Those are not the people that are going to be leaving needles in your doorstop or defecating on your front porch.
Say one quick thing before we go to the next question. Yeah, thank you for Ray. Absolutely. The main thing that really hasn't been mentioned here, I mean, you kind of mentioned it, Ray, is there has to be some kind of repercussions. What's the primary problem we have right here in Coos County? Where no jail, okay? That's the repercussions. It's carrot and stick. We're giving them tons of carrots. There's piles of carrots. Devereaux's a giant 500-foot tall pile of carrots, okay? There's no stick. So we need to decide as a community how we're going to get another jail pod open there. Now, I'm not going to go either direction. They want to do a tax bond again. It failed last time for various reasons because we're taxed enough already. They should be able to make this work with what they have. I agree with many people in here. I think our government has failed us. I'm not going to give you more money to keep failing. So I expect outside the box thinking. Rod thinks outside the box. He's about the only one that does. I'm not seeing much else of it in Coos County. So, yeah.
This isn't a firecracker idea, but it's one that is effective with enough time. So we were just talking about this, we could do something very simple, which is to actually have a formal petition that we send to both Boomer and the governor and a few other people that says open Shutter Creek for, a purposeful petition. We could do that and we could get a lot of people to sign it. And it does have to be a community effort, but there's signatures. So maybe there's enough wherewithal in this group to start something in particular, open up Shutter Creek for mental health. The state has allocated funds especially for this. We can ask for our portion of it. And that's a piece of what you're talking about. We need to ask more for our proportion of what we've contributed. I totally understand the feeling of we foist the money up there and it doesn't come back to us, so we shouldn't even bother. But pooling resources is tribal. This is something we know how to do. This is something primates know how to do. This is something that our gentlemen here are talking about with security, neighborhood security, to make it more affordable. So what we haven't done as local communities, in my opinion, this is just my perspective, is that we haven't done enough advocating for ourselves. We know there's these state programs, there's a bunch of money. We need to petition to say, hey, open up Shutter Creek again and let it be for mental health. You've got funds. But we can do that. Petition is an easy yes. Petition is an easy yes to get. We just have to make sure that they're actually Coos residents or Coos Bay residents or North Bend residents. Yeah, we have to make sure that our petition level is at the right. We can't have, Mickey Mouse sign it, and we can't have somebody from California sign it, right? But we can do this work. There's enough people in this room to do several petitions like that where we say we need our fair share of what we've actually already contributed. That's a great step forward we could take. Might be a little slow, but it definitely works.
And there are grants out there through Justice and Mental Health Collaboration and Law Enforcement Mental Health and Wellness Act. So there are resources that we can use to better this community and get these people help.
All right, I think we got some more questions in here. Sorry to make you wait so long. Come on up.
My name is Kathy, and I am a homeowner, property owner. We have spent thousands of dollars on security on my home. We've become compliant. Where everybody thinks I'm just going to pawn it off to somebody else. Everybody that's a homeowner or a business owner, it's going to take more than a village to get this taken care of. Everybody's going to have to step up. We didn't like what we had to do. And every day we have to basically walk our property. We've had words. I can make a man feel this high. And I don't like that. It's not funny. It's not fair. But this is what I got to do, short from shooting their asses. I mean, seriously. Let me tell you about Michael Moore and Jeremiah Mangine. Do you know who they are? Michael Moore should sound very familiar to you.
Moore sounds very familiar, the other one not so much.
He decided to rob my neighbor's house right next door to us, in front of us. He was so high on meth and heroin. They already robbed 2 other places. And they saw us looking at them. And he broke into the front, turned around and watched us, and broke into the back. I'm going to protect my property. I grabbed my gun, handed it to my sister, got on the phone, called 911. He ran. What did I do? I ran after his ass. I didn't care. I wasn't thinking, but god damn. Everybody's getting so tired of this. I seen a thing on the news several months ago in Eugene where the problem downtown was horrible. And they trained volunteers to walk downtown and try solutions, calm people down, and take care of things. These are regular volunteers. I'm retired. I would love to do something like that. I probably wouldn't be a good candidate because my finger really gets out there a lot. A lot. So anyway, it's not a solution, but it's something. Everybody's going to have to step forward. Everybody. So anyway.
We also have, in our nation, we have a history of community, not policing, but community neighborhood watch, you know. I mean, the one I know most about is the Black Panthers. That was, Black Panthers both distributed food and also walked the neighborhoods because they had time. You know, we have a large retirement segment. I'm not forcing them to do anything or anything like that, but it's worthwhile to approach our governments, our council, and say, is there something that we can do as groups, as neighbors? And, you know, there's safety in numbers, right?
Yes.
You know, I think there's things that we can do
It's going to
that
take
don't
more than
ask
a
for
village.
more.
Everybody's going to have to step up.
Anyway,
It's going to
thank
be
you.
really hard. It's like someone said, it's going to get worse before it gets better.
Yeah.
And I'm really surprised. How many members of the are in this group?
In the Facebook group?
Uh-huh.
So there's just over 6,100 in the Facebook group. It's the largest neighborhood watch as far as the Facebook groups go in the county. Obviously, we have members that are members of other groups, and we weren't the first. There's plenty that were before us. And based on our statistics on who lives in Coos Bay, North Bend, et cetera, somewhere between 5,000 and 5,500 of those are actually Coos County residents. I take some pride in that because like 85 to 90% of the people in the group are actual Coos County residents.
There's not a whole lot of younger people here. And that's kind of sad. I see you. But we need more people. It's the younger ones that are just kind of stepping back. I hate to say that. And leaving us to, you know.
Feel inspired.
Yeah, somebody's got to change.
We handed them a lot of junk.
Our society's moving way too fast. It's moving way too fast.
But it's small groups of citizens like this. It's this kind of community outreach right here that changes the world. I mean, if we don't start like this, it just never goes any further. It's groups of
I just wanted to say, yeah, that's how this country was founded. I've had people come to me and say, well, are you an official neighborhood watch group? Because like there is like a nationwide neighborhood watch group. You can buy signs and sign up and have your name put on the list as the neighborhood watch coordinator, which I mean, that's fine, but I don't really care. You know, none of the government itself doesn't exist if we didn't create it. So this whole, oh, official this, official that, like we have to do it.
Hi, I'm Shanna Stillion. My husband and I own a business in Coos Bay. Have for several years now. And as you guys can probably imagine, we see all sorts of things at all sorts of times of the day and night. And not that I'm not empathetic to all of the stories that we've heard up here on the panel tonight. I just don't see much hope.
There's hope, there's hope. We can do this, we can all do this. We're all here, so that's how you know there is hope. Or else we wouldn't all be in this room.
You know, we are. We're stronger than this, right?
We're better than
We're better than this. But I guess what I'd like to do tonight really is, it wasn't my intention starting out this way tonight, but I'd really like to ask Ms. Jones here, and I'd hate to call you out, Mr. Taylor, our fine commissioner that we have voted in recently. Very happy about that decision. That was one of the ones that Coos County finally got right. But what I'd like to ask both of you, if I could, and again, I'm sorry to have to call you out, Mr. Taylor, but is what the government level is doing for our community, our county, our state, as far as our situation here. Not just the homeless, and we redefined that tonight, I think, in a way, thanks to Sam. But I think that we have to do our part, not just locally, but on a state and a government level. I know that there's many of us in here that are thinking the same thing. They're just not brave enough, which I didn't think I would be either, to stand in front of this microphone tonight. But I'm sick of it. I'm sick of having a governor that doesn't give a shit about Coos County. And frankly, I'm sick of our local offices not doing enough to support that on a government level. They have maybe not in the sense of authority to stand before our governor and our state representatives and speak for us. We need someone strong to speak for us. I really hate feeling like we have a community that's been lost, forgotten. We're not getting help. And for us to have to fight this hard for our community within ourselves is just not right. We need that support, and we're not getting it. I know we're a small community, but we are a strong community. At least we once were. And I really feel like we can be again if we had that support. We really need that support.
Thank you, Shanna. Yeah, this is a... Oh, I'm sorry. We do have another question. Do we want to do that? He wants to address afterwards. Okay.
Are you the only commissioner here?
Are there any other Coos County Commissioners here?
If there were, then there would be a quorum and then would be able to say.
Okay. I think that speaks a lot about Rob.
But it's actually, it sounds like a technicality, right? But public meeting law.
So I've been hearing a lot of explanations and not a lot of solutions. And I share the previous lady's sentiments deeply. And I think the barefoot gentleman really had a point. There's a difference between homelessness and criminals. When someone cuts into your fence, shits on your business front porch, and throws a rock at your auto shop, that's a criminal. It doesn't matter whether they live down the street or on the street. They're a criminal. So this isn't about homelessness. This is about criminals. And criminals belong in a jail. We don't have one. Our jail used to have 200 plus beds. With the same tax dollars, it now has 50. Now, I've been told that's funding and that's an HR problem. They can't hire people. I personally know people that have applied for those positions and they've been denied. There's, I guess, standards set for how policemen should act and think. And I can see that being productive. We don't want crazy people out there, but maybe those standards are a little too ridiculous. We can't hire anybody. I mean, there are people like Willie who are willing to do these jobs, but they won't or can't because they don't want to work in that environment or they can't get hired. It's a problem. I'm sick of hearing that it's a problem and no one's saying, hey, this is an emergency. For COVID, remember 2 years ago, we created an emergency. We said, hey, this is a crazy emergency and we're going to put personal liberties aside. We're going to create a whole new system of rules, a whole bunch of ridiculous legislation because we have an emergency. How is this not an emergency? Think about that for a second. I've studied history a little bit. Have we ever had a point in history where we're not allowed to lock up criminals? I'm going to quickly try and read something. I wrote some notes from yesterday. I got a message from a friend. His neighbor had someone steal something off his porch. He didn't commit murder, but he stole something off the porch. It was like $300 from Amazon, something like that. Turns out, the cops show up, they catch him red-handed. He has the package. He admits that he took it. Guy's name is Jamie Sharp. Turns out, he spent 15 years in prison for attempted murder and robbery. He got paroled. Once you're paroled, you're on probation. Probation apparently doesn't matter anymore because in July, he was arrested for unlawful use of a weapon and menacing, and he's on the street. He's not in jail. Guy on probation, unlawful use of a weapon and menacing in this county in July, and the cops don't have him in a jail. Then, he goes and steals a package off the porch. What do you guys think the cops do? They arrest him. They take him to Coquille. No, they do. But they book and release him. His friends pick him up, bring him back to Coos Bay, and at personal risk of actually saying this, I followed the guy. Where did he go? Somebody actually might guess. He goes to the Devereaux Center. He doesn't know who I am. I walk up to the guy, and I just start a conversation with him. He explains that this is his brother standing next to them, and the pretty much first thing they ask me is if I do dope. I say, sure, why? Well, would you want some? This isn't the first time that's happened. I guess I don't really have a life, so sometimes I walk around at night and I pretend I'm a homeless person, or whatever they are. And I've been to the Devereaux Center on many occasions, at least 10 times in the middle of the night this past month. They always sell you dope. And you can take that dope. I'm not kidding. I could film it. It's weird to say this in a beautiful auditorium. You can take the dope, and if the ladies buy the restroom in the back, the outhouse, you can trade it with her for favors because she wants that dope so bad. This is real. This is in our county. So anyway, so the guy who's in jail for attempted murder, released onto our streets, the cops don't care. And they might actually care. If this is a police officer standing in front of me, he'd say he cares, and I believe him. But if you were in his shoes, would you let that criminal go? I hope the answer to that question is no. You would quit your job, you'd give your sergeant an ultimatum, you'd grow a pair of balls, you'd talk to your friends about it, you'd quit your job, or you'd tell your sergeant, I'm arresting that guy and taking him to jail, and I'm going to stand there and I'm not going to let him leave. And I'm not going to let him come back into my community, and I'm going to do something about it. Now, I don't advocate for people to break the law. You do what you want, and I'm going to do what I want. But these people need to be put in their place. And there's legal ways to do it. Sometimes it's just a conversation. I had a conversation with Jamie last night. I hope he took my words for what they were and understands that that's not acceptable in this town anymore. And those are just words, and sometimes you need to back it up. But if I'm not the only person saying that to these people, and they're easy to find, it will start catching on. Sometimes it's just a conversation, like the other lady said, she polices her property, and sometimes she has to talk to them, make them feel about this big. Sometimes they're actually kind of messed up people, and they break down, and they have a crisis, and they change their life. It's happened. I've talked to some people like that, some criminals, some burglars. I don't know. There are ways to do it. There are solutions. A petition to Congress or whatever. Those things can work. We all have a role. Do that. Don't just say it at this meeting. Like, spearhead it. Go with it and run with it and do it. And if anybody wants to help her, that's great. But if anybody wants to talk to me about, like, if there's a rock thrown through your window, I'm going to throw this out there. And you have it on camera and the cops won't do anything about it, ask him who the guy was standing here, and he'll put you in touch with me, and we'll find him.
And I'll go with him.
Yeah! I'm serious. That's how you do it. There are other ways to do it. There are other avenues. It's a very complex problem. Rod, I beg you, please, at every meeting, tell them that this is an emergency.
Yeah.
Say it. Say the word emergency. Speak with passion. And I know those meetings can be boring. And there's a bunch of process to it. But, like, be passionate. I can't go to those meetings anymore because I don't want to feel like I'm asking people and begging them to do something that they should have already known to do in the first place. This is clearly an emergency. Everybody in this room can see that. It's crazy, but I'm serious. If your fence is cut and you know who it is, my neighbor got robbed, the police told her who it was. She had it on camera. But they couldn't do anything because he had already left. That's been said already. Well, guess what? We got her stuff back. We found the guy. We made him return the stuff. There are other ways.
Oh, thank you. This has been a really great thing so far here tonight, and there's certainly some great ideas that have been articulated, and the problem is a devastating one from a human perspective, and it gives me cause to reflect on one of the county commissioners that I admire from the past who used to buy some radio commercials. His name was Gordon Ross. And Gordon had one radio commercial in particular where he said, Coos County would save over $10 million a year, and the number's much different today, let me tell you, if only everybody would live by the teachings of Jesus. And you know what? Gordon's right. He's right. Now, we can't legislate that, of course. If I had my way, everybody would know the eternal life that I know, that I have confidence in. But not everybody wants to make that choice, and we're all free to make our own choices. That's one of the elemental principles of our nation, this great nation that we live in. But we are under assault. There is no doubt about it. And what we're seeing, we're seeing an assault not only from the influx of imported people who are who have these mental problems, the drug addiction, and these are the really the ones that are really the worst off. But we're also under assault from a family and a fiscal perspective. So, you know, that's where we see people running closer to the edge fiscally in their own lives, and they end up with one thing that pushes them over the edge, and the next thing you know, they're living in their car and looking for some place to sleep, and maybe they still have a job, maybe they don't. Maybe this situation pushes them to start using drugs, and then it devolves further. There's so many different stories, but they all start with a human being who has a heart and a soul, and who God loves just as much as He loves you or me. But you know, they need help. They're great ideas about the Shutter Creek facility. This is actually an idea that I've discussed with other people recently as well, and you know, I think that we've got a fantastic installation up there that could be used as a sobering transition center, and certainly that would give us lots of opportunity to sort out the ones who want help and are looking for it, and the ones who are sort of not at that place yet, or maybe never, who knows. What we do with those people, I don't know, but certainly the jail facility is a big problem, and that goes back, really it does go back to funding. And you know, there's an awful lot that I've learned since I've been county commissioner. The reality is that, you know, we all pay a lot of property taxes, but the county ourselves only gets $1.08 per thousand of that property tax bill. It's about 1/10 of it. It varies depending on the taxing district. The rest of the money that you pay on your property tax bill goes to the special districts, the schools, the fire district, the hospital district, the water district, the irrigation district, the airport. You know, we have the second highest number of special taxing districts of any county in the state right here. And conversely, the property tax that we pay to the county here is in the bottom third of property taxes everywhere in the county. That includes in really tiny ones like Harney. So the reason for that goes back to another aspect of this attack that we're under. And it's a financial one. It's about control, people. It's about control, power, and money. That's what it's about. And that's why the income sources that the county used to enjoy from the timberlands, there are several different types of timberlands. There's the O&C forest lands and the Coos Bay wagon road lands primarily, that the county derived the majority of, or a very large portion of our revenue from. And due to increasing logging restrictions, increasing environmental wacko theories being postulated to the demise of our society, sorry, a little soapbox there, but you know, it's gotten really ridiculous how little revenue we're getting from those lands. We used to get, in today's dollar, 30, 40 years ago, $25 million a year. And today, it's 1.3. So, and then on the other hand, you know, do we want to pay more property tax? I don't think you do. And I don't want you to either. And there are a lot of people who wouldn't really be impacted by it. Could we afford it? Yeah, we could afford it. But there are a lot of people in this county who couldn't. It would make the difference between being able to eat or not. So that's why I don't favor tax levy. I'm not saying I never would, but I don't see it right now. I just don't see it. But you know, Matt came to the fore with an idea, a really creative, clever idea to fund law enforcement, and it was a crowdfunding enterprise to go and address larger businesses, prosperous individuals to fund the jail. And we're going to, I'm actually currently working on a program to take that to a broader base vis-a-vis an insert in property tax bills and an attendant campaign to promote this idea, hey, the levy didn't pass, our jail doesn't have enough money, we need a jail, we need to be able to fund our district attorney who is behind by 1,500 cases, but the levy didn't pass. How are we going to do this? Volunteerism. Volunteerism. Can you afford $500 a year? And can you commit that you'll do that for the next 3 years? That's what we need, because we cannot hire on a one-year basis. We have to know that we're going to be able to service that employee while that employee provides a service to the residents of the county on a reliable basis. So that's what we're going to do. That's one of the things we're going to do. And the other fight is, of course, about the timberlands. I don't yet know how we're going to wrest back control from the greedy hand of Washington, D.C. and Salem, primarily Washington, D.C., to get the timber revenues out of those lands that we're supposed to be getting. I don't know how we're going to do it, but that is the key. That's one of the huge keys to taking back the local control that we want to have here. And so I appreciate everything that's been said. Is there anything that was said that I didn't really address? Yeah, okay, all right. Very good. That's it. Thank you. Thank you, Billy.
Well, I just want to address what Stan was saying, and even Rod here. It really boils down to everybody being involved. I came to this area about 6 years ago, and I was homeless when I first got here. And back at the time, Bassendorf Beach was open to camp there. And so we did, my wife and I, we got through. And now we own a house in Myrtle Point. I'm from Myrtle Point. It took us a while to get on our feet, but sometimes it works that way. But I'm an evangelist. I travel wherever God sends me. And He brought me here. And just last week, I was with a bunch of ex-cons that are believers in Christ, and they were out in the largest homeless camp in Oregon is in Salem, they say. So we went into that camp in there, and we handed out food and prayed with a lot of people in there. And I met a young man that was in there from the time he was 13 till he was about 23. Lived in that very camp. And those guys are the ones that brought him out of that camp. And now he has a job and a wife and a child. And he's doing really well. And he goes back into that camp, and he knows all the people because he lived there for 11 years. So he goes back in that camp, and he prays with them, and he deals with them, and trying to pull more out. So I just want to bring that up because it's really important that as individuals, especially the church, gets involved with these people. I'm surprised there ain't more pastors here and more of that going on. Because life's changed that way. It doesn't happen just because you put them in a rehab. They end up going back on the street again. I know I got brothers that are doing that. And so the problem is not really the drugs or the crime. The problem is the heart of these individuals, and they're bound up. Addictions are hard to break. Habits are hard to break. If you're in a desperate situation and you always stole, you'll steal again. You don't have the morality. So there's a park in Myrtle Point that I was aware of recently. And then this park, the skate park that somebody donated. A gal across the street, as a matter of fact, helped pay for it. And it's a skate park for the kids to play in. But the weird part about it is the city seems to have forgotten about it, and so do most of the people in that town. And we found needles in that park. People are in there drinking and fighting. People are getting hurt and beat up. Turns out there's 3 drug dealers across from the park. And kids are dropped off there by their parents, 9 and 10 years old. And like some people are saying, there's an outhouse where prostitution goes on just so they can get a dime bag. Things are going really bad because people are like, this one guy was saying, they're hopeless. And they're desperate for something, so they try to fix it. And some of them are homeless, or at least the drugs, the alcohol, those things get them homeless. So we're going to be going in this park and bringing the gospel in there because nobody else will. We're going in there to minister to the kids and meet the neighbors. As a matter of fact, I'll give you a little story. There's one little guy in there, he's out of prison for 11 years and he's selling drugs there. And I prayed about and asked God to remove him. Well, it turns out, I found out 2 days ago he's dying. I didn't think I would do it that way. So I sent a friend of mine who lives across from the park. And he's pretty big. Everybody knows him as Big John. He's a pretty big guy. Most people are intimidated by him. And I sent him in to witness to the guy. Well, the guy didn't do very well with it. But we're not done yet. The point is, there is ways to do it if we get involved. And people must care about others and put themselves on the spot. That's the only way we're going to change communities. The only way we're going to change this nation. It's the only way things are going to get better. And whether you believe in God or not, you can still love people and still care about them and still make a difference. Yeah, there's criminals out there. Most times because they come from broken homes. They were created into that. I know because I came from one of those. So I just want everybody to realize that we have to put ourselves on the line. And I'm really glad everybody is here. I was hoping there'd be 100 or 200 more. Maybe we can keep this thing going and do it again and again until we can get maybe the church in here and other people in here so we can actually change our communities in a bigger way. So anyway, I'm done.
1 second here. I'm going to have the panel talk a little bit.
Yeah, there's like 3 or 4 questions back. So my set of categories is homeless, modern nomads, and criminals. People choosing to harm others or harm others' property. And I think that is often very clear. And I also think that criminal behavior is both a choice and desperate. And to speak to why don't government programs work or ever work exactly as we hope? It's not their, I don't think they're abject failures. What I think is missing is that for us to change, we usually need human connection in some form, right? So we need somebody to show up at our camp where we don't feel good and give us some attention and tell us about love or tell us about their personal solution. Give us real attention. The government can never do that, right? It's too impersonal, and it underscores how this is a whole community problem, and our actions together are how we fix it for us and every community across the world fixes it for themselves. For the lady here about what I'm aware of we're working on, we spoke a little bit, several people have spoken, I agree with this. There's people out there who know to gate the system, right? You've got the same people going, I need your gas voucher, thank you very much, I need your gas voucher, thank you very much, And so one of the most important efforts we're trying to get, and using some of the homeless funding from the state that's trickled down to us in this time, is to get all of our private organizations who are engaged in services to use the same information system so that we can tell who's doubling up. And so that that person in the moment, volunteer basically who's trying to run these programs says, Mr. So-and-so, I see that you've already gotten a gas voucher this week. We like to spread them out, so I'm not going to give you one this time. So that's a big piece of it, is centralizing so that even our private organizations know who's getting what. And that's a big part of the government money that's going into making our resources both more effective and distributed more fairly. We don't want people to just say, yeah, I'm going to just take what I can because I can. So that's an important piece that we're adding in with some of this funding that we're getting in across the state.
Now, when you say you're adding that in, is that currently you're adding?
Meaning we are working on getting, so the county, actually Commissioner Taylor might be able to speak to this a little more, but there's a county effort that we got that $1 million startup money basically. And that's one of their initiatives, is to get all of our churches in particular that are providing services and housing, with all of the plethora of things that they do on the same information system so that we can start keeping track. And
So Ms. Jones, is a lot of that money going to the Devereaux Center?
No, this is completely, they might be using it, but this will go to our food banks, this will go to Pelican, you know, this is for all resources to funnel in so that we can have a better idea of who's getting what. And do a better idea, get a better distribution of our freebies, our charitable things.
So you can answer that question, then how is the Devereaux Center funded?
So I believe the Devereaux Center is funded by private donations. I am not aware of any city money or state money, but somebody might be able to speak to that. I personally don't know. I believe it's private. And that's kind of the other thing about government. This, you know, we have a lot of layers here, a lot of dimensions. And private organizations are able to decide exactly what they want to offer. When a government offers something, it has to be for everybody, it has sort of be killed. There's this whole high level of liability because we're here to take care of everybody in the same way. So that's why government functioning seems so strange a lot of times, because we're actually reaching out to private organizations to do some of the work. They can choose what they want. We don't have this bigger burden that the government has to agree to. And that makes things confusing. Anyway, I don't know if that answers your question or not. But the second thing that a lot of us are speaking with, and I know personally, I'm a transplant. I've only been here about 10 years. I know personally so many people who come for some of our highest paying jobs, the hospital, the college, the BLM, organizations. They get here, they can't find housing at all. They can't even find a junky apartment, right? So the city has made it a priority to pull in affordable housing, which is not subsidized housing. This is housing for workers, for middle class people, for the people who are actually coming here to work. And so these projects, the annex purchase, I don't know if anyone in here is familiar with the annex purchase, but that is one of those projects. We're using urban development money to buy that. It's probably a 5 or 6 year process because we'll have to have it demolished, we have to find developers, and we've secured a bunch of grants from all the way up to federal.
You're aware that, and maybe a lot of you guys are, that we've been hearing, and I don't know if Matt's been hearing it too on Facebook, on through his page there, but we've been hearing that annex was going to be used for affordable housing.
So that's my clarification. That is my clarification. So it's like the umbrella of homeless is some classes. Some people who are there and they want to get out. Some people who choose it. There are modern nomads. Then there are criminal modern nomads. Affordable housing is the same umbrella. I'm not talking about subsidized housing. I'm talking about housing for people who actually work here or want to work here or are coming to work here. And so the council has given their blessing to, Commissioner Taylor knows this, the council and committee decision, county commission decisions are at this really high level. We're projecting out for years. But the annex, there's a few other things that are for us to build housing for people who work. Apartments, 1, 2, 3 bedroom apartments or homes or, there's something called small homes that I just learned about. Tiny homes, but small, not quite tiny homes. These ideas where when we ask for our share of our pooled resources from the state and from the feds, we're doing that, and in doing that, we are creating opportunities to build housing so that people can actually buy them. Because, and this is just all my personal observation here, I don't know about you guys, but when I walk around North Bend, I see a lot of empty houses that have been empty for the entire 10 years, right? And buildings, and yeah, and I wonder to myself, how is it that we don't have anyone in those homes? How is that exactly? And this is a national problem. We don't have affordable housing for working people, for regular people like all of us here, in large degree because Wall Street has become a literal vacuum for buying up properties everywhere, and we don't ask property owners that want to keep them vacant for their fair share of public safety, right? Like, so my perspective is, when you have a vacant home, week after week, month after month, year after year, you are off the backs of the rest of us who are paying for public safety. And we know in North Bend we have a deficit in funding. We would like to have a larger shift, right? We'd like to have 3 people a shift. But we have, and so I combine that, in my mind, I combine that with all of these vacant homes, and I say, geez, those people who own those homes are not paying their fair share, because it creates a public safety risk when you're empty, you know? So, I don't know, that's the best I can do. We are well aware of the catch and release of the jails. We are well aware of Measure 110, and to the gentleman who said, I think was saying to me, start that petition that you mentioned. I would love to. It has to be citizen driven, and as a council person, I'm already considered, I must recuse myself from this. So this is why I think, you know, we have a 6,500 person Facebook page. This would be a very useful thing for us to create some ideas where as a community, we bother and get those signatures, and I'd love to drive it if I could. Sorry to the gentleman who thought I could.
If anybody wants to start
Thank
that
you.
in North Bend or any other community, just send me an email and ask for the document so you can copy it, and I'll send it to you.
I would be more than happy.
Good, I'm one of them. My name's Maddie Gowie-Rand. I own Bayview Accounting and Tax Service in North Bend. And I voted for Rod and even helped him get elected. I know, have a great place for signs. So I thank you for addressing the annex thing, because that was actually one of my questions.
Yeah, well, it's weird, right? Say, the city had news, they did something to the annex, and you look at it a month later, you're like.
And yeah, nothing's happening.
It's because those projects are 5 years.
It's irritating. So my other question is, my son is the new district administrator for the Washington County. He came out of Jackson County, was the first person out of the entire nation that was out of our Oregon that came up from the ranks, started as a probation officer and went all the way to the top. So I'm really proud of him for that. But I've asked him about the homelessness situation. He goes in front of the Congress on a weekly basis. And one of the things that he has said that we're not still addressing is the fact of the guys that are caught and released or put on probation, they have no place to go. Nate said that there was a really wonderful old couple that was down in Jackson County and Josephine County, that they had like a halfway house for these guys to go to. We don't have anything like that in Coos County, nothing. And I think that's something that we should get addressed, because Nate has said that this elderly couple, they just opened their huge home to doing this on their own. There was no funding or anything. They just did this on their own. And then some of the officers, the probation officers themselves, gathered up in money to give to them to help them out with their food and stuff. I know we have a lot of retired officers in our area because I do their taxes. And I know a couple of them have said that they wish that we had something like this here to address that issue. And I know that hasn't been brought up here tonight at all. So I know that that is a need here. It's not just that these guys are out on the streets, and like Nate said, it gives them more opportunity to go get right back into the system. And
And a lot of them don't want to go back into the system, but they don't have any opportunity to get out. And so that's another issue with the homeless situation. The other thing that I want to see is that we actually get housing. I just went up there to Nate's just a few weekends ago. In Portland, it makes me furious that they have huge amount of apartment buildings built all over the place. Nate's in Beaverton, and there is like, I'm not kidding, hundreds of apartment buildings being built right now up there. They can't get them fast enough. We don't have anything like that here. Nothing. There's the only apartment complexes we have in our whole Coos County. There's none in North Bend hardly. The old North Bend Hotel, yeah, that's one. But we don't have anything like that, what they've got up in Portland. And it's frustrating to me. I was born and raised here. I've left a couple of times, came back. But we don't have the resources here. We don't have the government backing here, which I'm thankful that we got Rod on our side. But a lot of the flipping money is going up to the blasted Portland. And transit tax, I get so angry every time I do payrolls for my employers. Because that transit tax that they're getting taxed on, none of that's going to Coos County. Not one dime. It's all going to the blasted Portland. And then they start up this stinking paid family leave crap. None of that goes to us. It doesn't help anybody. They're going, oh, well, it's going to start in September. Well, big freaking deal. I've got S-Corp officers that are 70-something years old. They're paying into this garbage. They're not ever going to get on any money out of that. Why should they pay into it? I get so angry with our taxes. And so I just, as a taxpayer, I feel that everybody that has made comments and everything tonight, and us business owners, we do have to stick together. But we need to do that petition, honestly, starting tomorrow. And I'm willing, if we need tons and tons of copies, bring it over. I got a huge copy machine. That sucker can crank out a lot of them at once. So I really appreciate you guys being here, and I'm glad to be a part of this group. And if you guys need any more help, let me know. And I will tell you one little story that I ran off 2 years ago. I got a little furious. I was in the bathroom, 11 o'clock in the morning, and some scumbag, was not a homeless guy, was a stinking damn criminal. And I heard this racket outside, and I thought, what the heck is going on? My lawn guy's here today? And so I ran out, got out of the shower, got dressed, ran around the corner, and here's this scumbag standing at my dining room door. Thankfully, I had, for some reason, I thought to put the bolt on the night before, which I hardly ever do. So he was locked, he'd already lockpicked the outside door to my porch, was coming in. And I know I'm a Christian lady, but I was furious. And I said, what the hell are you doing on my porch? Get off or I'm gonna shoot your ass. So he took off running, and I grabbed my deer gun and ran after him. And then I called the 911. Well, I called Nathan first. And he goes, Mom, call 911. Don't shoot him. I said, all right. So I called 911, and Officer Brett came in. he was so sweet. And he said, can you shoot that gun? I said, well, I can shoot a deer between the eyeballs at 400 yards. What do you think? He goes, okay, here's the deal. You shoot to kill, you do not maim. And I will tell you the other part of that story. Nathan said, Mom, if you shot him, they do have to arrest you and take you to jail. Just to let you know. I said, all right, I'm willing to do that. But we don't have a jail, so see? There you go. Yeah, catch and relieve. I'd be the one that they'd be sticking in there forever. But I do want to say that as property owners, we are allowed to defend our property. And Officer Gallagher did tell me that we can do that. However, they have to be inside your home. And inside my porch was inside my home. So he would have been a dead man if I'd had the gun ready. But I just wanted to thank all of you guys for coming, and I hope that we can get everybody's signatures on that petition.
Just wanted to say really quickly, I'm no lawyer, but be careful. In Oregon and most states, you can use deadly force to defend your life and limb or another person's life or limb. We are a semi-castle doctrine state, is what she was referring. If they're in your house, the assumption is that they're probably going to do you harm. So, make your own decision there, but it's typically in defense of life or limb. So don't shoot people just for fun. So, Counselor would like to add here.
Great. This is, I'm only speaking about North Bend's program, but so one of the things that we did when we were looking at how to do this, because there's no rules and rules, and I noticed on the Facebook page that, and I agreed with this initially, why do we have to do anything at all? Why not just wait to get sued? Why not? And so just so people know, the ruling was very specific in that if you don't have an ordinance, camping is allowed. Camping is allowed in all public spaces, which means right-of-ways, sidewalks, meridians, parks, but right-of-ways, who wants that? So that is why our council chose to embrace making something, right? Because we wanted something. And then the second step that we had was, in North Bend, we have very little public space that's not really used by everybody. We're very small, and we don't have them extra. And so we had a few town halls, and the response was very clear. Nobody wanted camping in parks, and we thought, we don't want camping in parks either. I mean, we all live within this tiny city limits, and every single person on council, I believe, has homeless in their neighborhood. We see it. We have, I see it where we live, and so we wanted to honor that because we want that too. And then the second step was that we had a very strong contingent of people, not only at the town halls, but people who came to council to make public comment and came with petitions for the city that we're like, every person in our apartment building signed on. That's 34 people. We don't want it on our streets. So then we said, okay, maybe no residential. Okay, and that was part of our ordinance. Well, of course, that puts the burden on the business owners, right? It's the tyranny of the majority in a way that really sucks, right? Because our small businesses are our economic engine, and the vast majority are residents, right? So these are the incredibly tough choices we had to make. So we made that choice. And then the last thing we wanted to know was, how do we don't want to give up too much space, right? Can we start small, right? So as a part of our ordinance, we made it so that it's easy to make changes. and that the city can get temporary emergency powers. I don't think that's the right word, but temporarily change what's on the books. And so this was done specifically because Harbor Street is beautiful. It also happens to be the furthest away from residential areas. So that's part of that honoring is far away. But one of the things we added in our ordinance was if the businesses down there wanted to have, say, a special event, like food trucks or something, then the city could easily temporarily change the time, shuffle the camping to somewhere else, so that those businesses, at minimum, can have events that they can use that beautiful space. And the city permitting process is long enough period of time for us to make those changes. And so that was added in. And that's kind of how we arrived at it. And we're still watching. And we very much need public comment. We very much need you to either submit through Report a Problem or come to council to register your ideas. And public meeting laws are really beautiful, but they also make normal communication really weird. I mean, I know this myself. When I spoke to council once before I was a counselor, I rehearsed my points. You know, I felt like, okay, I'll be able to do this. But by the time I sat in front of council, I felt embarrassed. I stammered. You know, it's embarrassing. But we need you to come forth and push through. We are your neighbors. We're here in it together. So push through. You know, just know that. Know that we know that it's embarrassing and weird. And part of the law is so that a person can make their full expression. The council does not engage in dialogue. And you can see why, if there were a council person who decided, I don't like this person's thing, why that's required, why that's a required restraining on the council. But for everybody else, it feels really weird. So just know that. We all know that. Please make your comments anyway. Or just report a concern and say, I want this read as a public comment, and we'll do that. And then the last thing I want to say is, even though I believe our police force in North Bend is too small by at least one person a shift, and I'd like to have detectives. Wow, wouldn't that be great, right? We don't have that because we don't want to pay for that yet. But even despite that, we secured grants, a portion of our pooled money. We've called for our portion of that pooled money to do something called a community resource officer. And that first person is now our chief of police, Cal Mitz. And they are not quite bridging the gap of somebody, say, the preacher who spoke here saying that, you know, he's making that human connection, but as close as an officer can. When they go to enforce the camping ordinance, they give people on one side of the piece of paper a list of resources along with the rules, and on the other side a map, and then they say, this community resource person says, why are you here? What do you need? How can we help you? And this is a real change. You know, I don't know about you guys, and I didn't grow up here, but I was always afraid of the police, even as a girl. You know, like, oh God, the cops. You know, that is, I'm going to run, right? This is a complete change of that. And somebody may get arrested. You know, they may arrest that person, but they're not approaching it in the way that makes your fight or flight just kick in and all, you know, that kind of thing. So even though, to me, our police force in North Bend is too small, our whole team is starting to orient themselves around the human being. And I think this is powerful. I mean, we heard our community resource officer now told us that he had talked to the same guy probably 40 times in 2 months. And that 40th time, this man said to him, I want to go home. Can you help me go home? I don't think I can do this anymore. So that's real. And that's real from the cops and from the city, from the government. Like we really literally can change our systems. And so I wanted to say that. Thank you.
I'll go at it real quickly. You guys just hired a new community resource officer, didn't you, in North Bend? Josh? Okay, so Josh used to work for me in security. He was the guy I hired to be a training officer. He trained my officers. He's one of the best security officers I ever had. Okay? So we have people who know Josh, okay? So they made a very, very good choice in hiring Josh to be the community resource officer. So I would say of the two cities, North Bend is doing better than the other one. So, all right. Go ahead.
So, I live in North Bend, I work in Coos Bay. Jenny will tell you, I've been to many council meetings in North Bend. I didn't hold back. I called them out, you know. I had homeless RVs and cars in front of my house nightly. I had the zombie walk. You know, I confronted them. I confronted the police, I confronted the city officials. We can't sit back and let the homeless take over. Call out your elected officials. Go to the meetings, tell them what's going on. Coos Bay, I don't know what they're thinking. They're more worried right now about building a $34 million library than the people living on Ackerman that had to go through a whole crap show, shit show, for the kids to get on the school bus. Their priorities are wrong. The people that live in Coos Bay need to call them out on it. And don't take their bull where they say we're working on it. You know, Devereaux Center, 360 calls within a year. The mayor of Coos Bay several years ago was upset at Walmart because they were calling for shoplifting. And now he's giving money to Devereaux Center? Come on, what's up with this? The citizens of Coos Bay need to stand up for themselves. I was threatened at work this morning by a person. You know, my wife worries when I get a phone call at night to go into work. I'm not law enforcement, right? We call law enforcement, sometimes they don't show up, right? Because they end up having to deal, 3 officers having to go deal with some psycho that they've dealt with 5 times already. You know, when we did the ballot initiative for the jail, it was a friggin' joke. The county commissioners didn't even come out and support it, you know? No one supported it. No one wanted it, but we're saying we need the jails, we need the money. There is no more money. North Bend, large portion of it in Coos Bay, large portion of it goes to pay for PERS. You know, we need to find a solution. We need to come up with laws to make things work. North Bend, they did the 24 hours on unregistered vehicles, tag and tow. You know, that cleaned it up. Coos Bay, it's 10 days. So that RV, that car, that piece of crap will be out in front of your house for 10 days, and then they move 1 block. You know, the citizens of Coos Bay need to stand up for themselves to the elected officials and make it known what you want. Go to the meetings. If you can't go to the meetings, write an email and have them read it into the record. You know, one thing we have in our neighborhood is some of the elderly see things and they're afraid to call it in. They call me. You know, do that for your neighbors. You know, yeah, granted, yeah, I went through a lot of heartache at my house. I had damage to my house. I had to hire private security to protect my house and my family. But now we can live in our home. We're not having the homeless out front all night. When people do pull up and park outside the park, right out in front of my house, 801, I call North Bend PD. And they come by within an hour and move the people and send them down to Harbor Avenue. A lot of people don't like they're on Harbor Avenue. I like it. They're not in front of my house. I drove through there this morning. There were 12 cars and one camper off down on Sheridan. But you know what? They're not in front of my house. They're not in front of everyone's house over on Cedar and over by College Park Church. So it's working. So just make the elected officials know what you want them to do and hold their feet to the fire on it. The county, you know, you guys have a lot of big area to maintain. You got the RVs, the camps, the people in the forest. Come up with different rules. You know, there's cities that have rules on shopping carts. Coos Bay, North Bend looked at it and said, well, the stores won't do it. Force them to do it. Tell them you're going to charge them $100 every time you pick up a shopping cart. It's ridiculous. You go by the bottle drop. Bottle drop, no shopping carts on their property, but they dump them right there on the city street. Well, that's the bottle drop causing a nuisance. Nancy Devereaux Center is causing a nuisance. You know, hold them to the fire, you know, and that's what we need to do, you know. I don't mind going to North Bend and calling out things. I've sent many emails. I've called out many things. I may not be popular, but I can sleep at night now.
I love doing petitions at your property, but your petitions, they're not going to listen to your petitions. The state, they created this problem. And it's not a problem of drugs or homelessness or mental illness, even though they contribute to the situation. Your problem is lawlessness. Your problem is lawlessness and a justice system that has been so severely damaged it no longer functions. Every time I go to a county meeting or a city meeting, and I've been to the North Bend meetings, I've been to the Coos Bay meetings, Bandon, you name them, I go to those meetings. I watch them on TV, and every time this subject comes up, I hear the same excuse. Our hands are tied, we can't do nothing because the state government has passed laws. The courts have decided on certain cases, but please, let's consider some more taxes.
They're fucking cowards.
That's right. And you know, I want to thank that man for coming up and speaking because he had it right. I got a couple of suggestions for you. Put your petitions away. It's time for the city councils and the county commissioners to work together. And you know, I can't let this pass. I want to thank you, ma'am, for coming here. Thank you. But there could have been 2 more city councilors from North Bend. There could have been 2 more city councilors from Coos Bay, Bandon, Powers. There could have been a sheriff here. We got a sheriff here? No, we got a sheriff deputy here?
Cowards.
Yeah, cowards. Where is the homeless committee? We got a meeting on homelessness and the crime, and where is the homeless committee? Crickets? I tried to put this event in the city newsletter that's put out by Roger Craddock and Nicole Rutherford from the city of Coos Bay in their newsletter, and they refused to do it. It doesn't feel like we're getting any support from some of these people. No hope. There is hope, Shanna. Boy, you nearly made me tear up listening to you. So this is what we need to do. We need to get the city councils, and we need to get the county commission, and we need to put advisory question on the ballot demanding that they bring on some mental health facilities and they open back up the prisons. No petitions. We want to vote. You get a vote, and I'll tell you how successful we were. This county here, we were the only county ever to stop. And you know what we stopped? The largest wetland restoration project here in Oregon. It was happening in Bandon. We stopped that with a 70% turnout and a 72% vote against the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and we stopped that Bandon Marsh expansion. They would have destroyed all of those beautiful farms and ranches between the ocean and the 4-mile marker on 42S.
Thank you.
That's right. We have to keep the city council and the county commissioners accountable. And they can do this with these advisory questions. Second off, all these gentlemen that you see standing around, the gentlemen who've been out front, they're part of the neighborhood watch. You know, Matt's our face man. But you don't realize that many of us go out every night and we keep the peace in this county. And the one things that we need to do from the county commissioners and the city council is you need to explain to your police officers that we are working for them, that we are a help to them, and they work for us. So when they see us on the street, They need to use their police discretion, their sheriff discretion, and allow us to do what we need to do to keep some of these criminals, not homeless, not druggies, not the mentally ill, the criminals, off our properties. But sometimes there are people out there who are afraid to do anything because they're afraid they're going to be the criminal. I just had a friend who recently experienced that. He defended himself, and he found himself in jail, where this lunatic career criminal is now able to do whatever the hell he wants. The system is turned upside down because of the lawlessness. We are made the criminals and they are made the victims, and we got too many damn carrots and not enough sticks. So my suggestion is you start talking to the police, you start talking to the sheriff, and you tell them to leave the average citizen alone who's protecting their property. And you tell them, and you councilors and county commissioners, let's do those advisory votes. And that's my 2 recommendations for this committee.
Thanks, Rob. We're pretty much done on time here. I think it's like 5 minutes to 9. You want to say one more thing, John? Yeah, come on up.
I won't filibuster, I promise. I spoke briefly earlier, but I had some other things on my mind. I've watched this. I live in the city of Coos Bay, and I've lived there for a long time. And I've watched the city go to hell while I just sat there and ran my business and raised my family. And I said, somebody's got to do something. And eventually I realized it's me that's got to do something. And Rod has really inspired me because I suspect that he realized the same thing. And his relentless journey to where he got really inspired me. So I'm getting involved. I spoke, here's the funny thing, I spoke to the city council this week, and they only gave me 3 minutes, and we had Nate McClintock there watching the clock for $300 an hour. So they didn't really want to hear what I had to say, so I had to make it brief. And what I said is I don't know how we got here, where we have 7 people in this chamber that don't represent in any way, shape, or form the 2/3 majority of this city. And they said, no, we're not politically affiliated at all. So I looked at the city council had a biennium goals. Has anybody seen that? The number 1 goal for the city council for the biennium of 23 to 25 is diversity, equity, and inclusion. Yes, it's written out. That's what they decide on. That is the classic liberal talking point. So there's not enough. I have planned to run for mayor of this town of Coos Bay. And it's a hard decision because I'll be 65 on my next birthday. And if I still have the health when the next election comes up, and I'm not a politician, and I don't know that much about the inner workings of government, but I got a lot of time. I'm smart. I'll figure it out. Between now and the election, I'll be ready. And one other thing, the root cause of homelessness, it's not hard. Decades of the secular, godless left has been devaluing the family, thinking government can replace the family.
Because they ain't going to help us.
And this is the result. This is the result. And we got it. And I plan on helping take this city back. But I need help. There's 6 councilors, and they're all the same radical leftists. There's good people in this room, besides me, that we need to have people like Rod who have the courage to run for these offices. We're all busy. We don't want to get involved. It took a while for it to slide to where it is now. And suddenly you realize we have no representation, but we're not a liberal community. How did that happen? And it's going to take a little while to get it back. And I don't know who it is, but other people have to step up and run for these local offices. All politics are local. I don't give a damn about Portland. I can't be concerned about their problems or Eugene. I'm worried about my home. Okay? So thank you. All right, I just want to say thank you to everybody that came. 3 hours actually went pretty quickly, so. So I don't know if we're gonna do another one of these. We'll see what the reception is from the people I'm gonna send it to. Hopefully my video comes out. I'm gonna send it to the county commissioners, both city councils, and basically anybody else that'll listen. Some people might have known, I tried to get some statements from people too. There are people that don't want to come up and talk. There's a few people in this crowd that didn't want to. I read the one from Samuel's Automotive. So I have a handful of those. I'm going to be submitting those statements along with the video to these various governing bodies, and we'll see what they do with it.
The Egyptian Theater would be more than happy to host this event yet again.
Thank you, Jim. Yeah, no protesters? No rioters?
Well, we had one guy who was.
I'm calling Antifa headquarters.
I guess they realize we're not a bunch of Nazis. That's strange. Very strange. So yeah, thank you all for coming. I'll be doing that, and then I know Rob doesn't agree with the petitions. I'm probably going to do them. Somebody's going to do them anyway. You know, attack them from every angle. Do the petition and do everything else all at the same time. So, all right, thank you for coming, folks.